League PC scene. For counting before the rebrand during the Mineski days, that's since 2013. That's 8 years in their belt. That's what? Worlds, I believe the panel brought it up, Worlds, PCS, LST. Meanwhile, for Sunsparks, a household name for the esports, especially the mobile esports scene. So a lot of expectations for both of these organizations, especially if they want to transition here to the Wild Rift esports era. So, Kaisaya, I know we were talking about during the predictions. We were listening to the panelist predictions. Now, I'll give the floor to you. What are your thoughts? What do you think? How is this series going to go?
Again, this is the hardest part for us, especially if we're talking about teams that, we have yet to see what they might bring into the table, and we know that they really have the capacity to bring some really good plays. But I guess just to answer straightforward, just for the sake of having predictions as well, I think I'm gonna go on to 2-1 in favor of Liab. So yeah, again, that was hard because we do know each of the players as well, and like how they performed. Even Sunspark showing up, being second placer from the preseason last time. So that's something in terms of expectations. That's something that we really have to eye on to. But yeah, the panels as well talked about these three members actually sets the ADC as well as the support and the jungler of Sunsparks being all together for quite a long time already. And that's something Liab Esports also has within themselves too. The jungler and the ADC too has been together in a different mobile MOBA. So yeah, there's a lot of expectations for these two teams, and I guess we just have to find out, Riku.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. I mean, both of these organizations, both of these teams sort of mesh together from the mobile esports scene and as well as the League PC scene as well, and just forming, this all-star type of roster for their squad. You mentioned, Sunsparks ended up in second place. Meanwhile, for Liab, didn't get to survive earlier on in the preseason as they were both actually knocked out by Next Play. I mean, that is something, that is the bar that we watched back in the South Luzon group stages. But now this is a new start, a fresh start for the North Luzon team. So just as everybody else is saying, this is such a very hyped match because, again, we didn't get to see this matchup back in preseason.
Oh yeah, indeed. And I'm pretty sure that in scrimmages, maybe they just tried themselves out for one time and then that was it. I'm sure that, based on our intel, they just have been screaming up against, non-PH team to just try to find and new strategies that they can pull off, new types of composition, and it's gonna be hard. And I don't know, I don't think we're gonna be seeing a 2-0 in favor of someone in this match because, again, this is a very tough battle between these two. Each of them really knows their champions, their roles so well. They have a massive amount of champion pool that they can place onto the table. Maybe it's now just a matter of who's got the better research, who's got the better strategy in terms of preparation, and who's not having the jitters anymore in this first day for our South Luzon Icon series.
Yeah, that's true. A lot is on the line. You not only want to battle for that playoff spot, but you're also battling for that fall season spot, making sure that you end up on the next season for the Wild Rift Icon series. And again, we mentioned these two organizations again has a lot on the line, especially what their resume looks like when we look at their experience as an organization. But yeah, when you were talking about compositions, which team will be able to adjust on the fly? Because when we look at South Luzon, in a span of a week, in the middle of the week, there dropped a patch, the 2.2a patch, and suddenly we didn't get to see the usual picks. We didn't get to see the 1-3-1s anymore. It's basically standard laning coming from again the South Luzon matches, and we saw between the Omega Execration match, we've seen a bunch of lane swaps as well.
Yeah. So we didn't see that 1-2-1 or 1-3-1, whatever you want to call it, but the lane swap might still be that effective, especially if you want to go for an early punish against potentially the Baron laner of your opponent. So especially he won't, so that he won't be able to go for that early push, and just do not give him the capacity based on his role. So yeah, lots of exciting stuff. But if I don't know, maybe I'm just still gonna be giving this benefit of the doubt, or maybe we still have a chance in seeing that 1-2-1 or 1-3-1 setup, because I think just yesterday I did see a community event wherein a particular top tier team or brand showed off a 1-3-1 setup again. So we'll see how this will go. Maybe there will still be lots of surprises. Maybe it's just these teams as of the moment, at least the previous ones, just showing off that for the meantime we're just gonna go for what standard, and if by standard would mean, it's just gonna be a 1-2-2 setup, regardless if it's a standard one or the usual standard ones, or a swap version.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, what you said is like, okay, the 1-3-1 is not completely dead. Some of the teams are still bringing it up in other tournaments as well. So that's another option that teams will definitely approach the South Luzon stage rather. And yeah, it is definitely the group of death. It's going to be absolutely difficult. I mean, the qualifiers were already difficult for them. I mean, there were a bunch of big organizations involved in the qualifiers. We've got Bren, you've got RRQ, and again, both of these teams practically knocked them out just to get to this stage. So again, a lot is on the line, and curious how the meta is going to unfold, because not only did we see the lane swap earlier between the Omega and Execration match, but we also saw how Galio isn't that prioritized anymore. Before, we almost see Galio 100% banned, but now not really.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure if I lost Rika on that part, but yeah, I think we can talk about the matchup in the lanes as well. Dual laners, we can see ADC for Gambit and 8 for the side of Liab Esports, and we've got ADC sets for the side of Sunspark. So in terms of comfortability with their roles, Sets has actually been playing for many years already. Maybe I can call it 5 years or so in the ADC role, so that's something to look forward to. But for Gambit, he adjusted his role from, I believe, being a mid laner to being an ADC for Liab Esports brand. So that's something to look forward as well, how comfortable they are, not just on their roles, but at the same time, how they're going to be putting or executing their role for their teammates in order for them to make the play that they want to go for. But yeah, other than that, Rico, do you have any other matchup that you want to talk about in here? Right after we talk about, or did mention about the ADCs.
Yeah, I love, having to bring up, Gambit having to adjust a little bit in his role swap from before, and as well as Sets being such a, he's used to this role basically, just as you mentioned for Sets. And I think that is the beautiful thing about this matchup as well. I don't think there were any roster changes from the preseason, so their synergy is intact. I guess it's just about having to adjust in, again, everything what's been happening for the North Luzon group stages. And yeah, I think we were talking about it off the cast, and how Sets and Maze have known each other since high school. That's crazy. I think, Sunsparks does have that cute interview video on Sets. What are his favorite champions? What are his most hated champions? So I do recommend checking that out. It's a very cute interview.
Yeah. I mean, them being together since high school and now they just don't want to leave each other out. You can imagine how comfortable they are in their dual lane, right? So you're confident about your support. You can just play aggressively all you would want, and just be sure that your support will be there protecting you. But other than that, yes, that's the advantage maybe for the dual laners on Sunsparks. But I guess there's something we can talk about, the advantage of Moraita Boy as a support. He was a jungler main before that adjusted to being a support. And I have this belief, and I believe most of the people as well, that if you actually have played as a jungler already before and you transition into being a support, you know the jungler's rotation so well. You know what kind of objectives, you know when and where to position yourself. So I guess that's one other thing that Moraita Boy can actually flex up against the since high high school stuff between the dual laners of Sunsparks.
I mean, that's true. You mentioned like, okay, jungle role a lot. You basically keep in your jungle awareness, your map awareness, and then you transition to support. Well, we were talking to Chisto the other day, not the other day, just today, and we asked, okay, Moraita Boy is like their main shot caller, and then you do have your secondary shot caller like Miggy and then EXO. And I guess you were asking about matchups. I'm looking forward to the EXO-Sen 5722 matchup in the mid lane because how will sort of EXO-Sen, such a huge esports personality, esports player rather, ever since the League PC days, and he has swapped roles here and there from AD carry and then into the mid lane, and it's just so exciting to see him in this Wild Rift esports scene. And I'm excited to see this matchup on how 5722 will adjust. Will we be seeing a 1v1 type of scenario, or will we be seeing 5722 just sit back, play the Aurelion Soul, and just empower the side lanes?
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting as well because again, we talk about experience that EXO-Sen has already in the mid. Pretty sure he knows about all the champions that is in here, or maybe not yet in here in League of Legends Wild Rift. While 5722 actually a recent addition, not really that much of a recent, but if we compare it to the bonding that these three guys, Fate, Sets as well as Maze has since for the past 5 years, 5722 just came into their roster just this year. So some adjustments, some things has been worked out in terms of synergy so that they will go well all along. But yeah, maybe there will be a difference or a gap just in terms of experience, but we just cannot discount. Sunspark as a team proved us already that they can actually be a top tier team. Many has actually been calling them out as just a team that is not really something to look forward to, but them getting some placements not just in the preseason of South Luzon, or rather of Icon Series Philippines, but also in other big community events. Then you just have to watch out for these players. But then again, it's just about teamwork, not really just about individuals as well.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You mentioned how you cannot write off Sunsparks just yet. They are the team that managed to get into the preseason finals. They defeated Bren. They defeated RRQ in their journey and reached the end of that finale. So definitely something to take into account for. And as well as Leah getting knocked out early by Next Play as well. I think that's something to think about when we look at this matchup. So no roster swaps, no roster changes. I think something to look forward to for Sunsparks is how they would, I suppose, swap between Devil J or RTG. It was Infinity that brought this up. RTG, if you want the utility, you want the tanks, you bring him up. If you want a 4-1 composition, you want the duelists in that 1v1 solo lane, you bring in Devil J. And I'm so excited to see how this dynamic grows throughout the whole tournament.
Yeah, and about that too, Nixu in the Baron lane for the side of the Abby Sports. This is what I'm also excited about as to how Devil J will manage to, or just go for that duel up against Nixu in the lane. But then again, what will count onto this one are the ganks, of course, of our junglers from Fate, from Miggy, for both of these teams, because definitely that will allow them to empower their Baron laners too. It's just so hard to predict right now because again, this is the first time that they're gonna be seeing each other, and it's just so exciting. It's so hard to predict that we can just rely on previous data or previous experiences of these teams, and they can just prove us wrong and just tell us that, hey, whatever you're saying there while you guys are talking, while we're not even making a show, then it's wrong. We're gonna prove you wrong. This is not about just experience. This is not just about a change in role or being comfortable in your role for the past 5 years. So yeah, we'll see about this one. And I don't know, it's just very interesting for this too. But I guess, Rico, we can talk about next about the potential or the possible comps that they will go for? Do you have it? I mean, there are, we got two Lee Sin mains in here. Maybe that's something that these two teams will be respecting too. So, other than that, do you have any guesses as to what kind of comps are we gonna go for? Some initiate ones, 4-1, 1-1? I don't know. It's hard to guess, but
yeah, I think I love that you brought that up, because I think Yuko is the one that mentioned Yasuo when they were talking about Sunsparks. They do love the Yasuo composition. Again, just fielding or putting all their eggs in one player, which is 5722. Either you put your solo laner, maybe RTG on the Gragas, then you have your jungler Fate on a Wukong, and then you play the Yasuo. I think the biggest question is whether or not they want to bring it out right away, first game of their day up against Liab, or just expand a little bit, as well as, the basics like the Ziggs, or maybe even the Aurelion Soul that we saw from 5722. So very curious, because you mentioned how, okay, sometimes 1-3-1 sort of phased out, but at the same time, we still get to see them in other tournaments. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist anymore, just because we didn't get to see the 1-3-1 in, again, in the North Luzon, rather, group stages. So it could evolve. We could see the Siege composition, which is the Lux and the Ziggs, extremely popular. Even the bans state how popular it is, because Ziggs has been banned for 2 games earlier between the Omega versus Execration game. So I don't know. If Galio is open, it could potentially open to what we saw. I believe this was played by Galaxy Racer, the Pantheon Galio comp, which is just basically numbers advantage and just quick response, cross map play. So there's so many possibilities that I can't wait to see it unfold.
Yeah, I mean, have that semi-global ult available. You are just ready to both split push and go for a backup. So it's gonna be very interesting. I can remember that Execration a while ago, previously in the first series today, really just eyeing for proving us that Galio as well as the Diana could work. Apparently, I think it's just Omega Esports really just being like maybe 5 steps ahead against the Execration during that time. But we're not saying, of course, that Execration might be lacking thereof already. Pretty sure they can still adjust and go for that Diana Galio play that they want to pull off. So I'm wondering, going back to Diana, I'm wondering if we'll be seeing Diana again this time. Because again, the matchup between these two teams, Liab Esports and Sunsparks, are something that is we can even say, almost into the same level, right? So again, a 2-1 is a possibility for the series, and picks like Diana might be possible, even Katarina, I'd be expecting something like that. And even, of course, in the Baron lanes, we might be seeing some Akali, of course, if she doesn't get banned, and like that of the Camille as well. So it's tough, and I think we just keep on repeating that word as well, because that is reality. Sometimes reality is, I don't want to call it like reality hurts or truth hurts.
Reality hurts. It's true though. But yeah, reality, we'll get to see the reality of the match soon for sure. So back and relax to the people watching over here in our live stream. And I mean, it's so interesting to see how the meta moves forward from here. And you mentioned maybe the Katarina again, maybe a bunch of cheese plays. I know in my notes, I know it's the next series. I know it's still the next series, but I guess we do have time to talk about just a little bit. Sure. I don't know if it's correct, but my notes say stronger played an Ashe support. I could be wrong. My notes could be wrong. But it's just, setting the tone again for maybe a bunch of interesting picks that we did not expect. I mean, earlier, I believe the panel said something about maybe we'll get a Saya mid, which might be tough. We'll see.
I think that happened because that particular event went in for a global ban pick mode. So they were lacking in terms of picks already. They had to go for a blitzcrank support. So, imagine a best of 7 event going for a global ban pick mode. knowing that it's just like I think that was just the first few months of the open beta. So that's tough. Like you really have to make sure that you have a huge champion pool, and I think this is the advantage. If you're the type of the team who actually were able to participate on that kind of event, actually Sunsparks was able to participate in that event wherein they had to go up against Omega Esports. And if I can remember correctly, Stronger did mention to me that the backdoor technique was something that they adopted from Sunsparks. Sunsparks wasn't named Sunsparks before. It was once not Esports right before they even get acquired. So it was something that I think not most of the people do know. Because again, this came from Stronger, and he said it's Sunsparks who did that backdoor to us, and we just keep on repeating it and showing it. Maybe it's something that they were able to improve on. But going on to what's currently on our screens, yes, we have Esports versus Sunsparks. Yeah, what do we see in the drafts?
Yeah, I love the story. It just shows that Sunsparks has a little bit of tricks that they haven't shown just yet. They are molding it, but now the bands, Oriana. That is a band that we never usually see. Akali, Diana as well. Kaisaya, what is going on?
Yeah, what is going on? Oriana definitely something that they are denying onto 5722. We can see Oriana, at least in the history of the champion picks of 5722. Oriana, Yasuo, we can even see him and Aurelion Sol in the middle lane, just really, really being good at it and knowing how to go for the micro play. So I think it's just a respect onto what 5722 can do. And we did mention the Lee Sin, the Diana a while ago. Now Sunsparks respecting that up against Liab Esports. But seeing this Gragas getting picked up by Liab Esports, seems like they eyeing onto making sure that someone's gonna free hit into the back line.
I know. I mean, hold on thought though. Sunsparks, look at this red side first rotation pick. This is a team secret red side. First two picks. The Seraphine possibly sets. We might see him on a mage duo bot, unless this is like maybe the standard Seraphine Olaf mid jungle. So I'm excited to see this unfold.
Yeah, I mean, this is really interesting because we're seeing a Galio this time. So most probably it's going to be a Seraphine mid. I'm just guessing Galio as a support. We can see an Olaf in the jungle potentially, and a Camille in the Baron layer. Or it can be a swap. Olaf can go onto the Baron lane, but hey, it's been a long time since the Olaf went into the Baron because again, he needs blue buff. And he is high in terms of mana consumption. So it's gonna depend, but yeah, it could be an Olaf jungle, Camille, Baron. But for the meantime, there is another initiator that is locked in, and the Yasuo stolen away from 5722. We can see that usual wombo combo that we can see. Gotta go for the Steel Tempest. And once there are airborne targets.
I'm kind of tearing up a little because even though I wouldn't say it's nostalgic to see Sunsparks run this, first time we saw this, it was Team Secret that ran the double mage duo, and then you empower the Olaf. But the difference is that you don't have a Ziggs in the mid lane. You have a Galio. You're another front line, your other front line, and as well as your other heavy engage. So I'm looking forward to this. This is absolutely, I wouldn't call it mad, but it's just nice to see this composition being drafted again by Sunsparks. But in the meantime, Liab, with the Yasuo composition.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, this is something we already expect. Okay, if there's a Yasuo, there's gonna be a potential Wukong or any other champions that can go for knockups to assist the Yasuo to go for that early Steel Tempest. But at the same time, we're seeing a lot of pokes that is gonna be coming from that Sunsparks composition. And if we talk about late game, they can even match up as well. Just allow the Olaf to play aggressively, so as the Camille. And this is just gonna be a Sona as well as the Seraphine providing shields and healings for them to sustain the team fight. So it's gonna be tricky because at the same time, Liab Esports, their win condition, pull off that AoE CC against the members of Sunsparks, maybe even go for an early deletion of the Seraphine as well as the Sona, and then you can win that game. So again, it's just a matter of who's gonna be stopping who. in terms of the win conditions, it's gonna be tricky. Again, all about execution. It's even hard to decide or pick up a draft that is of our preference. But if we're gonna be asking as to which one is basic, I'm gonna call it for Liab Esports, which is easier to pull off. It's gonna be a lot trickier for Sunsparks, however. But then again, if they have been practicing this in scrimmages, sure, why not? Show it us to us here in the Icon series.
I know. I mean, you mentioned Liab a little bit more on the usual that we see. You know, power up the Yasuo, layer a bunch of CCs. You have the knock-up coming from the Braum, the Cyclone, the explosive cast, body slam. So everything is just on towards pulling in all their eggs towards Exosen, which is again what the trend that we always see. Especially again, Exo is the most experienced ever in the squad for sure. Meanwhile, for Sunsparks, again, we've seen this composition back in South Luzon, North Luzon. Why do we keep mixing that up? In North Luzon, where Team Secret brought it up as like the red side rotation. You pick up the Seraphine Olaf first, and then basically, what do you pick up for your mid lane? It's up to you to decide. But we already mentioned, like, air quote, the weakness of this draft. You don't have that scaling 80 carry, 80 range carry in your roster and your comp, which means that Sunsparks is, if Liab is banking everything on Exo, this time for Sunsparks, they're banking everything on Fate here on this Olaf pick. But the Galio pick is the most interesting for me because, again, this changes the dynamic of things. You've got a second engager, basically, because the weakness of an Olaf comp is that you don't usually, he can't really engage on his own, but with the Galio pick, I think that's pretty strong.
Yeah, especially if you see that ultimate already landing onto you, gotta make sure that you are ready to even catch that one up, or just, hey, we just have to back away. Let's waste his ultimate. But then again, it's not just, I guess, a secondary engager. I would even call the Olaf gonna go for that engages as well, even though he doesn't really have that hard CC, just the slows. Maybe the axe will be connecting. Yeah, the undertow will be connecting on the particular target, slowing down that particular target, maybe followed up by the Camille Hextech ultimatum, and then there goes the target. Just gonna be getting an assistance onto providing the shields, the heals coming from the Seraphine, and then they can potentially go for that win in the team fight. They just have to make sure, of course, that they avoid or at least proc the CCs or the knock-ups coming up from the Wukong, Gragas, as well as even the Braum. So in such a way, they won't be able to get that Steel Tempest running onto the favor of Liab Esports. So again, all a matter of execution. Both of them has their win conditions, and we're not really seeing a draft that is weaker than the other draft. It's more about maybe which one is easier to pull off, because it's the usual, it's standard, just maybe sometimes point and click, but not really point and click. But you know, because the composition of Sunsparks in here, it needs really nice rotation, really good rotation in order for the Seraphine as well as the Sona to be safe in the early stages of the game, so that they get their itemizations well and provide the necessary shielding and healing.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at Sunsparks, it basically spells we're not gonna die. We're basically gonna have a lot of shields, a lot of heals. And you mentioned, okay, Olaf can engage as well with the help of, so long as, you know, Sets and Mace will be nearby. He's just basically just gonna press Ragnarok and then run it down towards Liab.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to see how we get to see the Olaf, or rather the Galio, in this composition this time around for 5722. But this basically sort of neutralizes the matchup. We're not going to be seeing the 1v1 Exo saying 5722 hype, but instead we're going to be seeing the Galio pick, which sort of neutralizes everything. But this is game number 1, Liab Esports versus Sunsparks, the first time we're going to be seeing them match up here in the Icon series.
Yeah, for sure. Here we go, and we were talking about a 1-3-1 setup, and again this time we're seeing it onto Sunsparks, seeing that 3-man are actually going for a fast clear in the middle lane and just helping out the jungler to go for a fast clear of the buffs. So even Liab Esports, by the way, going for the 1-2-1 even in the mid. Look at that.
That is true. This, I believe, the standard matchup when you want to get that swap in, you do want to get that extra wave clear in the mid lane for sure to again sort of neutralize. So it's the usual that we see. Though we haven't seen this in a while actually in live series. So I'm excited to see this pan out because the matchups are still the same. Both lanes are still okay by that Riverside. But of course, we gotta watch out for adding the jungler in to this this 1-2-1 rotation. 1-1-2-1 rather.
Yeah, for sure. 1-2-1, 1-3-1. There you go, for as long as there are more people in the middle lane, really eyeing for a fast clear and going for an early rotation onto which lane, which solo lane you would want to punish. So this time we're going to be calling the top as well as the bottom side part of the map solo lanes, just because these champions are going to be solo laning their lane. So what a very interesting way for us to put things up. But yeah, so far it's looking pretty standards. No one is in a great lead. But ooh, a potential third buff secure for Sunsparks. Rather, yeah,
that's
they're going for a steal.
Yeah, they've managed to secure a triple buff, taking that away from Miggy here on the Wukong. So basically, very fast clear coming from Sunspark so far. But with Liab having to reset first, they will not be able to contest this, as Sunspark is able to at least get more out of. Whoa, what happened in the bottom?
Yeah, apparently we did not see it, but
that's true. But hold that thought though, as we see a dive in towards the top side of the map. Sunsparks having a fiesta here as the flash being used, but he's fine as Sunsparks just backs away after a successful 1v1. 5722 wins that duel. And on the top side, Sunsparks is able to take one kill under that tower, which is, I believe, Morita Boy fell in that tower dive. And Sunsparks, happy with that start for sure.
Actually, one of the teams has the same idea as to what they would want to pull off. They're gonna go for the 1-2-1 rotation. The idea is to clear the minion waves in the middle lane really fast and punish a particular solo lane. So Liab Esports tried to go for a gank onto the Galio into the bottom lane part of the map, but apparently during that time, I believe Migi doesn't have his ultimate available as of yet. And if we're just gonna be comparing the capacity in terms of the junglers that we have for these two teams, we will give Fate the advantage, of course, because Migi in the Wukong might be better off having the ultimate first before going for that better gank together with Exosense. Yasuo. Yes, we did not see what happened in there, but it was looking like a failed gank, and apparently Exosen getting punished with a pokes coming up from 5722. But yeah, looking good so far. 2 kills for Sunsparks on the lead as of the moment.
Yeah, off to a great start for Sunsparks. Biggest question is, the next fight is about to appear. We've got the dragon, the Earth Drake spawning. And again, Liab Esports' strength. Miggy is gonna run away. He's got the clone fielding in. Here comes the hero's entrance coming from 5722. Flashes are being used at the moment, and Ragnarok available. Look at the damage coming from Fate. And there's the wombo combo we're talking about. Nicely done package, lining up for Sunspark to come under that barbecue. And with Liab reaping their rewards, as we can see, Devil J actually entering the fight. Nicely done cast. But Devil J actually is able to escape with Liab Esports. They're able to wipe out Sunsparks in that jungle invade.
It could have been a position for Sunsparks if they did not go for a chase onto the members of Liab Esports. Again, there were no objectives in that part except for the kills, and they did not respect the death timers, knowing that potentially members of Liab Esports can go for a backup. Really nice entrance coming from Gambit Scorky as well, but for the meantime, potential fight might happen again here in the Dragon.
Yeah, Exosen a little bit separated into the fight, but it doesn't matter. Liab Esports press that go button. Dragon is still alive, but secured by Fate, but he falls in the process. 5722, very low. Gambit actually in the back line, getting a couple of free hits, and Devil J actually falls in his hands. And now the supports are left, the mages are left, as Seth is the only one surviving. And at this point, this could be a potential dive. Look at the damage coming from Gambit. Explosive damage. There's the body slam, and they're able to secure a kill. Now I believe that is an official ace for Liab.
What is wrong in here, in terms of the execution of Sunspark, was that they actually went onto a head start onto going for the dragon contest. They are a folk type composition, sorry. And if you are on that kind of composition, you would want to let your opponent to start the objective first and just go for pokes, lowering down the HP bars of your opponent, and then you potentially go for a steal. Yes, they did manage to get the Mountain Drake, but apparently all of the members went down. Now they give a 5k gold lead in favor of Sunspark. But Riku, what is this?
Whoa, Exos though, 1v2 situation, but it don't matter because Fate here still incredibly strong with Seraphine. But now Devil J on target with Miggy, but he's trapped in the arena. Now Rift Herald is actually open for the taking.
Yes, for sure. A really nice pick up in there, getting Exosen as well as Miga off guard into the bushes when the Seraphine has his ultimate available. So really nice decisive move, and we can see a turret exchange in here on the top side as well as the bottom side. It's pretty fair. Just 2k gold lead advantage for Liab Esports, and despite Sunsparks getting the 2 mistakes a while ago in the first few minutes of game time, that overextension into the jungle camp of Liab Esports, which wasn't necessary, and going for an early start onto the dragon, those mistakes still can be turned around. Again, the lead isn't that huge, and just like what we saw a while ago, if they manage to pick off targets, then they can potentially go, that's the time they can potentially go for the objective takes.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you mentioned that, okay, they were able to not get a pick earlier. It kind of backfired, but at least they're able to even that out. I mean, they got the dragon, they got the Earth Drake for themselves, and they even got the Rift Herald, but this is an invade. There's the Cyclone activated by Miggy. And the rest of Sunsparks just wants to run away, doesn't want to do anything with it. And at that point, nicely done pick off by Liab Esports.
Yeah, for sure. You're gonna love the sandwich moves being done by Liab Esports in here. They would want to try a position or find that position wherein they could go punish either the Seraphine as well as the Sona. Anyway, they are usually together, so it's gonna be a bonus. So if you find those 2 targets all alone without the protection coming from the Galio or the Camille, then just get them. And then we can just go all out in the team fights while these 2 are gone. So for the meantime, gonna be going back onto the laning phase. Everyone's gonna be going for a preparation onto that next Infernal Dragon. Is gonna be an important one in terms of objectives.
Absolutely important, just as you mentioned, because Liab Esports, they're pressured to take this second dragon for themselves, because again, Sunsparks was able to steal that away from them. But on the other side of the spectrum, they gotta be careful, Sunsparks, because when it comes to a 5v5 situation with Liab Esports just layering ults here and there, they managed to execute that well. They're able to squash all of these squishy targets. So for Sunsparks, they gotta find the right timing.
Uh-oh, Death Bush in here. You can't just go out. They need to poke out the bushes in here. But who can do that? Galio maybe? Or even the Seraphine too? But this is a really good zoning or creation of space by actually all of the 5 members. Only up, they're playing. Oh, Fate in here do know that they're actually there. So
yeah, it's a little bit risky considering that a Crescendo could just line up in the brush if you are spotted. But this time, Liab a little bit separated. Moraita Boy will sort of back away a little bit. Now it is Sunsparks again. Dibs on the Dragon actually deciding to retreat because they do want to escort that Rip Herald. There's the first knockback on towards the tower. Successful take on that mid lane tower. We'll have to check as Liab is still lingering around this dragon.
Yeah, and now they can't start this one. They're gonna get punished if they do so. Maybe they will be able to get a secure, but it's gonna be risky. They should allow and, just poke out the members of Liab first.
But that's a Cyclone in towards the backline. Miggy setting it up already, but we see EXO in deep trouble. As we can see, he is eliminated, but the rest of Liab still alive towards this backline. But Sunsparks, take note, we still have Fate all alive with his utility supports just backing him up, and this forces Liab to actually retreat.
Yeah, for sure. And they did manage to steal that dragon again. This time, you gotta love that aggressive play coming from Devil J, really going onto the backline, although he had to sacrifice his life. And I like that this time, Sunsparks finally waited for Diab Esports to the start of the target. It can be this patience game, really, for sure. Because if you are in the type of composition of Liab, wherein you have to go and initiate the team fights, you gotta be careful from the pokes that will be coming up from the members of Sunspark, especially from the Seraphine, as well as the Galio and the Sona. So that's gonna be tough. They lost 2 dragons already, and despite that, however, Liabi Sport is still in a 1k gold lead. Of course, primarily because of the kills that they managed to take down a while ago.
Yeah, I think Devil J managed to rack up a bunch of gold in his favor. We're seeing 5722 building a little bit on that damage department, even though, let's just say, Galio nerfed on the damage department, still very effective when it comes to these fights. And yeah, I think a little bit, it's still very close. It's still very close for both of these teams, but for Liab, I think they feel like they're probably a little bit frustrated not getting all of these objectives despite having such a beautiful 5v5 comp. It's just so hard. If Fate is alive, then that is definitely Sunspark's win condition, and that's definitely what Liab wants to take out.
Yeah, for sure. And now, looks like, well, they're separated as of the moment, 3 members up top, but they should eye on to going for another turret push, just like what they are planning. But what we can worry about is maybe they will get punished if the members of Sunsparks actually go for a counter objective, like going for a pressure on the bot side, just like what this Devil J is doing.
Yeah, but so far Nixu is being that gatekeeper in the bottom portion of the map. Really safe wave clear as well as the Garagas. But now Liab Esports at least sort of sweeping a bit of objectives here and there. But at the same time, still very careful. A lot of respect still on Sunsparks' composition. The ability for them to just burst someone down immediately with on top of the CCs of Seraphine. I mean, 5722 sets as well as an 8.
Look at what they're doing as of the moment. Just poke here and there, try to lower down the HP bars of their opponent, and once they find out that the Morita boy is already low in HP, then they can just go all out and punish him. But for the meantime, the respect of Sunsparks is still there up against Liab Esports. Oh, by the way, I can remember that history between Bren Esports and Liab Esports. Apparently, they aren't able to, meet up here in the South Luzon group stage. But then again, like, sister team Sunsparks is here to at least prove something for Bren. But hold on thought, because what was that? Another turret taken down against
Liab is playing the patient game here. I mean, they can afford to do so. You have a Yasuo that will scale heavily towards the later stages of the game. So I think that's the reason why Liab is sort of taking their time. They're fine. They're not antsy to try anything funny. They're not desperate to try and, accelerate the game a little bit. But I'm pretty sure Sunsparks wants to do the opposite. They're practically in their win condition where Fate is on, a bunch of items where he can try to axe one down and they're half HP. I bet that's an exaggeration, but that was, their plan. But I guess this is another dragon fight for sure, as Sunsparks has already started it. 2 members from Sunsparks already down as people go golden. Nixon will join the fight. That is a bunch of knockup, and Sunsparks secures the dragon once more, and Liab is actually on the run, and there's a ton coming from 5722. And Liab, unfortunately, just 3 members alive, and Sunsparks is having the time of their life. They're able to kill 4 from Liab.
Gotta love the teleport coming from Devil J's Camille, as well as the backup coming from Galio as well. And knowing that there are 4 members dead already on the side of the Liab Esports, they have all the right to just go for an early Baron take as well. I think what paid off onto that fight is that this is already a well-fed Camille and a well-fed Olaf that is actually going for engages, just like while we're talking about during the drafting phase, for as long as they have the protection, the shieldings, the healings coming from both the Sona and the Seraphine. So definitely Grievous Wounds must be built already to counter all the shieldings and healing that is already so much present on the members of Sunsparks. But yeah, 3 dragons and a Baron. Definitely Sunsparks has all the right to just go for more turret pushing.
Yeah, for sure. Devil J is just huge at this point. He's definitely capable of 1v1ing someone who's just trying to stop him. And that's the reason why, for Sunsparks, a very comfortable 4-1 for them. Again, Fate will be happy just having all of his 3 buddies with him, supporting him and engaging for him and healing and shielding for him. So this is the formula. Liab Esports forced to go on defense.
Yeah, and here we can see Black Cleaver, by the way. I think that's the first item that the Wukong has built to actually try to counter out Fate's Olaf, but apparently not really working so well because again, the shields, so much present, and the Abyss are basically having a tough time, but okay.
Yeah, they definitely are. I mean, good thing they do have wave clear in the form of Gambit's Corki, at least, so that buys them to turtle it out a little bit more, wait for Gambit and as well as EXO to get a little bit more items on their sleeve. But if they don't burst them down immediately, it's just so hard to kill them because of so much sustain coming from Sunsparks.
Yeah, we can see that there's the death dance as well onto Fate's Olaf, and that's gonna give him more lifesteal too. So you can just imagine, okay, is this the Olaf game again? I can remember, by the way, in my personal RJs, I'm just really eyeing for a lot of Olaf plays too, just because I also find him so super effective in the jungle as well, especially if he gets the itemization that he needs for as long as there's a utility support that will back him up either for shielding or healing. So I guess this is also what Sunsparks is also capitalizing.
Yeah, that is the cap. That is the Cyclone. They've managed to eliminate Base as well. That is 1 man down. The rest of the Yabis were just timing in, pouring in all their strength, and EXO is 1v2ing temporarily. Everybody's low from Liab, but at least they're waiting for that one Fate to die. Then that is the win condition, 1v1. EXO, that's still with the Guardian Angel still not proc. There's the shield. There is that first kill in, but while the Guardian Angel was procced, he's still alive. But that's a 1v2 situation. As the hookshot comes in, he is shielded. That is a ton of damage, Devil J, you madman. And even though Gambit is golden, he has Valkyrie for that safety, Nixu. But the rest of the squad of Liab Esports comes in, and they're rewarded with possibly this Elder Drake.
And the Elder Drake's gonna be helping them in terms of balancing things out. You can't leave, because what usually we would notice that if a particular team already got both all of the dragons plus of course the Elder Drake, and you give them a Baron buff, then that's gonna be it. But this time they still have the capacity to reserve this for themselves. Let's see if there's gonna be a steal. Look at that explosive cast. No steal for Sunsparks. That was tough.
Yeah, that's a good thing Fate wasn't around for that, because I felt like it could be a little bit dicey. But at the same time, Sunsparks knows that they might be... they could get the numbers disadvantage, and they didn't get to push too much. Now, Liab should be a little bit careful, because you don't know if Sunsparks just lying and waiting for the right time to burst someone down. And again, Liab back in the game. It looked pretty dicey for Liab, but for Sunsparks, right now they're opting or aiming for this Baron for sure.
Yeah, I can see this item's already almost complete for the Corki as well, but we just gotta wait for the ultimate from Morita Boy 2. That Braum is gonna be helping a lot in terms of finding that Steel Tempest connecting as well later on. But yeah, we gotta commend the Liab Esports play a while ago in their base, but you're going for a head start onto this Baron. No, they retreat. Yeah, it's gonna be dangerous.
Yeah, they've decided to retreat here. I guess they decided, okay, we might not have the numbers advantage. There's almost engaged actually towards Sunsparks here. They're really itching to start a fight.
Yeah, for sure. All of the ultimates are available except for... Okay, yes, I was about to say except for Gambit, but now it's back available. I think they're just baiting them out to, but the pressure is just so on to Devil J. But I guess this can work out.
Possibly. A little bit of pokes here and there from Liab on towards Sunsparks because they're the ones starting the Baron right now. Again, but once it's fade, oh dear me, he's so low, but the Cyclone's still activated. There's the Yasuo ult. Their target here is towards Set, but it doesn't matter. He's golden. He's gonna flash away. Just 2 members left as Sunsparks is trying to run for the hills, but it don't matter. Even though Miggy is still low, he still has Guardian Angel activated. But hold that thought. In the bottom portion of the map, we still have Devil J 1v1ing Nixu here, but it's not gonna be enough. He's gonna hit the Nexus, but the rest of Liab Esports is still very far away. Are they gonna opt for a base race? Take note, in the mid lane, there are minions marching down. That's the teleport. Will the stun kick in? Teleport doesn't connect. That's 3 members knocking on towards the Nexus. Who is their focus at this point? And they're eliminating Fate right off the bat, but it doesn't matter. The Guardian Angel just spawning back is gonna be too slow, and the Nexus falls. Liab Esports, you've done it. What an amazing game number 1.
It was super amazing that you do know that the lead, the position in the map was already onto the hands of Sunsparks, but just in one perfect clash, Liab Esports managed to reverse the condition of the game. That ultimate, that Cyclone coming up from Miggy's Wukong, followed up by the Still Tempest of that Yasuo, that made it so well. I mean, it was, I think if I recall correctly, it was the Sona that actually went down first, followed by the Galio. So you can just imagine, okay, no more heals, no more pokes, no more stuns as well. So, or no more knockbacks as well. So that's something that Liab Esports was just waiting to happen. But yeah, quite unfortunate though. Everything was already onto the hands of Sunsparks, but I think there was just an overcommitment and quite somehow, somehow disrespected the capacity of the composition of Liab during that pressure that they have been putting onto the base of Liab Esports.
I mean, that's true because we saw Devil J. He can 1v1 anyone, especially Nixu. Most of the gold went over towards Devil J, so he was very confident with, okay, if it's gonna be Moraita Boy versus Nixu, I can handle that 1v2 support and as well as the solo laner. So I think the difference was props to Moraita Boy and Nixu for canceling that teleport away from Devil J. I felt like it could have ended into tragedy perhaps if Devil J arrived and he just sort of cleaned the plate off and deny the Nexus a little bit more away from Liab Esports. What an insane game guys saw.
I think it was also Gambit just free hitting from the backline. Again, we saw Devil J onto the bottom lane part of the map going for a split push work, but other than that, there was no one else to actually go for a CC lock onto Gambit to not allow him to free hit. It could have been Devil J, but Devil J was busy onto the bottom lane part of the map, so it could just be Olaf, but it's gonna be dangerous because again, an Olaf that is actually going for a chase and initiate would mean you are also gonna be forcing your 2 supports to join you, and that's dangerous because again, there's a lot of CC. There's the Braum, there's the Wukong, there's also the Yasuo that can punish these 2 supports that you have behind you because you're being aggressive. So I guess Team Sunsparks was also built to go for a 5v5 fight. I guess they should have just make that split push work to wait a little bit later because, again, that Camille was very much needed into the fights as well.
Boy, do I want to see that again. Again, these are your play of the game brought to you by Oppo Reno 5. Insane Cyclones coming from Liab over here as, again, EXO with a follow-up for sure.
Yeah, and was it? Okay, I can't remember. We have a lot of highlights from this game, but yeah, we can see the stats over and over again, just showing off the MVP of the game as well, Gambit, basing on the stats, of course. But in most of the team fights, you can see everyone was just going all out too. This is Team Sunsparks eyeing onto the pokes that they can do, and most of the team fights, they can win it because Devil J was there. The moment that Devil J is already eyeing onto a split push work, you can see that, hey, no more Devil Jade. Then let's just go all out, go for a 4v4 fight up against them. No one's gonna be locking us anyway. It's just stuns maybe coming up from the Galio, but they make use of the Galio as to back up later on onto the team fights. But for the meantime, master of the match is gonna be that free hitting Quirky a while ago, Gambit, Kevin Luzon.
Yeah, Quirky Gambit here, again, he was untouched in the entirety of that game. I mean, of course you would want to focus your efforts towards EXO. He is the scary Yasuo. He is the reason why the composition is there. You've got the Gragas, you've got the Wukong. So of course you want to do eliminate EXO-Sen right off the bat. But your second problem is still Gambit here on the Quirky. Once he's able to itemize, as long as he gets those free hits. And the fact, again, the package, the very first instance of an amazing package play is all props to Gambit, where they're able to punish Sunsparks with their jungle invade, aggressive invade before they wanted to focus on the dragon. It's beautiful. I love that first match. That was absolutely insane by these two teams. It was insanely close.
Yeah, and that was the first mistake of Sunsparks, to be honest. I mean, there is an objective that is about to come up. The death timers aren't that heavy as of yet. You know that yes, if they die, they can just, after a few seconds, they just can go back and join you into the team fights that you have been prolonging. So that was an overextended chase into the jungle camp of Liab Esports, and that was unnecessary. So unnecessary plays, again, they are called unnecessary for a reason. So them getting punished was the call. But we did see the comeback from Sunsparks right after they managed to pick off both Migi as well as, if I can recall it correctly, that was EXO-Sen in the middle lane as well as in the top side of the jungle camp of Liab Esports. That's the time wherein Sunsparks did manage to find catch up in terms of gold lead and in terms of position into the map. But yeah, I think what was overlooked by Sunsparks into the latter part of the game was an open space for the Wukong to go for a Cyclone onto the Sona and killing both the Sona as well as the Galio. So again, no more heals, no more CCs for them to stop the members of Liab Esports from putting up their play. And at the same time, not only that overlook that happened to Sunsparks, but the split pushing Camille. Again, the win condition of Sunsparks, Camille must be there into the team fights. She's the only reason. She's the only one who can actually go for a CC lock, maybe into stopping the Quirky, but that didn't happen a while ago. Instead, he was going for a split push, but yeah, things happen. I mean, it's not always you can go for a perfect play, but what we did see is a Sunsparks that can still match up against Liab Esports. Maybe game 2, we'll see.
Game number 2, we'll find out what the conclusion is going to be for this very first series for Liab and Sunspark. Don't worry. I mean, if you're going to be fans of this rivalry, at least for South Luzon, don't worry, because this is a BO3. I mean, it's a BO3, but it's also a triple round robin. So you get to see this 2 more times. So anyone who's a fan of this rivalry will be happy. But looking at the bans right now and picks for game number 1, I think, again, there's 2 strong mid laners, I suppose. Diana and as well as Akali. We've seen EXO in Akali back in the preseason before. So, but Diana as well, they're probably expecting EXO to pick that out as well. Curious to see if, Liab, because they're on red side now, if they're going to do the same thing. Maybe opt for the Seraphine Sona assist the Olaf composition.
Well, a while ago we did see Omega Esports and Execration being on the red side, and they did not exactly copy the same strategy that Team Secret has started to show us from the North Luzon. But yeah, it's gonna be very interesting if between these 2 teams, is it gonna be the same? If you are on the red side, are you gonna be pulling off a Seraphine Sona composition? But if they do so, I'm pretty sure that Sunsparks might be ready to counter that kind of play as well, because it's them who is also trying to go for that kind of comp. So other than that, again, a potential, I still can feel a potential 2-1 between these 2 teams, because how they react to each other, how they can be decisive onto going on a particular objective, or sometimes even the mistakes too. I mean, it's not perfect. play that was executed by both of these teams, but then again, they are in the same level if you are to compare.
Yeah, it was incredibly equal. It was just a back and forth of 1v1 wins. I mean, at the first 1v1, I believe, 5-7-2-2 won that. It's a Galio pick. So I guess earlier on, Galio, a ton of damage, CC lock. And even though ult-wise, you don't have the advantage because that is definitely more on the utility side of things, not something that you can use 1v1 combat-wise, but still able to survive because of that barrier ignite matchup, I suppose. But yeah, it was so incredibly equal to the point that, okay, comps are equal, they're both working out. Devil J was able to scale up as well, being that single threat on that split pusher role, and as well as for the side of Liab, they're starting to come online. They're starting to be more brave with all these 4v4 fights because they've managed to get more items on Exosense, Yasuo. But at the end of the day, it's those small decisions that make a big impact. Like, what do? Do you want to push top side? Do you want to go for Baron? Do you not want to go for Baron? And I think what could have happened if Devil J went back earlier, like decided not to be super duper brave and decided to push, because he could have ended it there alone because he was the most fed member of the squad. He had the damage. He can 1v2 Moraita Boy and as well as I believe Nixu. So it's good. It's one of those things that what could have happened if they went for plan B instead.
Yeah, the what ifs are definitely in there once everything has happened already. But yeah, pretty sure I have this confidence to say as well that if Devil J was there into the team fights, trying to go for a contest into the Baron anyway, I guess they could have won it too. Because again, you mentioned already, Riku, he's well fed. Even Olaf was well fed, but Olaf wasn't enough. This is just the one that is frontlining for the rest of the members in here for Sunsparks, and the damage that he is taking is just way too much. Again, that's coming from both the Gragas and the Corki, as well as even count in that Yasuo too. So that's a lot of damage to take in, and even he has the Death Dance and the GA for himself, even the heals and the shieldings. Man, come on, there's also the Baron damage that they're also taking in at the same time. So I feel like if they manage to CC lock a particular target, in particular maybe the Corki, with the help of the Camille, then maybe things could have gone differently. So again, mistakes happen, but I'm pretty sure this is something not only the teams have realized, but maybe all of our viewers have realized as well. If you have a casual 5-man team that you are playing with in community tournaments, then this is something that you can also consider in your note-taking.
That's true. It was there. The Nexus was open. The thing is, you've got 2 waves from the bottom and as well as in the mid lane. 2 big super minion waves are marching down the Nexus. That would have been really the best option for Devil J to just push 2 waves in, use the 2 waves as a distraction, and just focus the Nexus. I guess unfortunately, the teleport cancel was sort of the unexpected thing because Moraita Boy was there. You've got the body slam in coming from Nixu. So yeah, we could say that maybe if the teleport came in, the Nexus of Sunspark still could have been saved. I just love it. I just love these small decision-making things that lead into big outcomes, big impactful plays. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's more of a muscle reflex in a way, like for how long have you been doing it, for how long have you been disciplined. If you are put in this kind of situation, how are you going to be reacting, right? So maybe there's just, since Devil J is actually the latest addition to Sunspark's team, although he did play during the preseason. It can still matter. So maybe there is some point where, okay, now I realize that, okay, should have done this, just like what we're mentioning. But yeah, other than that, I guess what we can expect from the members of Liab Esports, since they have been mainstay not just for the team but also for the brand itself. They know for sure how confident they are with each other, playing all together for a long time, at least, if not the whole team, at least two of their team members. And of course, the experience we're talking about, man. Pretty sure Exo said, I can imagine, maybe there's this shot call being said, don't lose hope. Let them just go inside our base, and then we're just gonna be going for the play that we want to go for.
Yeah, basically, trust the process. Trust this three-man push. He's just alone. We've got pure CCs left. We've got the Braum. We've got Moraita Boy, and as well as Nixu, just being that gatekeeper of that nexus. So it's a 1v2 situation, and a lot of trust being put onto these two players, and they're rewarded basically with that trust. So curious now, because you can see in your screen a swap of sides, with Liab being on the red side, Sunsparks now being on that blue side. So what are the picks that they could prioritize? Do we get to see Galio again? Because, you know, trends have changed. If South Luzon, or North Luzon rather, just wanted to keep the gargoyle inside his cage, ban him out most of the time, majority of the time, here in South Luzon, we play with Galio. He's our cute little doggy, except he's not a doggy. He's a gargoyle.
Yeah, for sure. But I think there is also the potential for Camille to getting banned as well. I mean, overall, Camille has been getting a lot of respect, either getting her as a priority pick or priority ban if we see that, if we really want to stop her. And not only that, of course, Camille, but also Akali still being in the top bans right now. I mean, since North Luzon, so up until here, so lots of respect for that Akali too. But I feel like Camille might be respected this time for the game 2 between Sunsparks and the esports. So what we might wonder this time is still, are there still gonna be a Seraphine Sona duo again? That might be pulled off by either of the team. And because it's almost, again, Sunsparks could have gotten that game if not for the mistakes in the decision makings that they've done from the last few minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it was, you know, the best choice at the time. You know, 2 minion waves crashing in. You are the most fed member of that match. You can 1v2, maybe even 1v3, depending on who you're up against. So he's that fed. So definitely understand the thought process there. But yeah, Camille has been such a contested pick ever since the North Luzon group stages. I mean, not only can you flex it in the jungle, of course standard on top side, but it's definitely one of the answers to compositions that have, you know, single target threat compositions, like protect the Kaisa pick, protect the Draven pick, and a bunch of other squishy targets basically. So it is a very safe, really good first pick as well because of that flexibility, and understandable now. And you know, Liab is willing to sort of, I wouldn't say give that up, because they were in red side earlier. They were in red side earlier, weren't they? No, they were in
the blue side. Yeah,
they were in blue side.
Yeah,
but they managed to prioritize something else, which I believe is the Gragas. Gragas has been very, very an interesting pick too, I suppose, because it counters a lot of compositions just because of that explosive cast.
He can go anywhere except for the dual lane or the ADC lane. Yeah, so a very flex pick. I mean, it's gonna give your opponent some mind games. Okay, we're gonna be placing this Gragas. Should we counter him early on, or should we just go on for the play that we want to go for? But other than that, I mean, these two teams, it now will just matter on how they will take in that result from game 1, because Liab Esports winning that game despite lacking the lead or position in the map into that game could still mean that they have the fighting spirit. But for Sunsparks, the question is, will they go for the same type of composition and just go for a more decisive and safer play, decision making as well, and just pull off the same comp that they did? But apparently not looking so, because they themselves have banned out the Olaf.
That's true. We are now in draft number 2. Game number 2 for Liab Esports and Sunsparks. Liab Esports on the red side, Sunsparks on the blue side. Just as you mentioned, Olaf being taken out. That means they don't want to see the red side Seraphine Olaf first rotation pick.
Yeah, and Diana, just like I mentioned, gonna be respected again. Will they ban out the Lee Sin? Something that Fate is also very comfortable about. If they ban out the Lee Sin, what could be open? Camille can be open? Oh no, they're gonna be opening both instead. They're gonna be banning out that 5722 Yasuo. So, lots of things open. The Camille as well as the Lee Sin. Are there gonna be any priority? By the way, the Gragas is still open as well. So, lots of options to take into. But again, we can remember 2 prio picks can go onto the hands of Liab Esports here. But there you go, Lee Sin prio for Sunsparks.
Yeah, Lee Sin priority over towards Sunsparks. I like it. That means Fate can secure that and as well as deny that away from Miggy. Just as you mentioned, they can go towards Gragas Camille perhaps. Just as you mentioned, Gragas can be flexed in different roles. So having the early Gragas pick and his last Camille pick doesn't really reveal too much, but Exocen for sure will pick something that's very carry-esque. So we'll have to see whether or not if they do lock in this Corki, send an Exocen Corki or a Gambit Corki.
Ooh, Camille, they're willing to give Camille away, but it looks like it's gonna be a Kaisa prio for Sunspark, something also that Sets is also comfortable about. So, what do you think about that they just let the Camille go in here they got a chance, but instead they went on to an early pick for the Corki. Something must be in here about Corki. Maybe is this their win condition really for the side of Liab Esports?
I think they wanted to prioritize a better position for Exocen in the lane if they want to give the Corki to Exo or whether or not they want to pick something early. So not prioritizing the Camille gives Exocen a leeway. So they wanted to see the comp first from Sunsparks and then pick up the Camille once they've decided to put where the Corki is going to be.
Lots of comfort picks I'm seeing onto the hands of Sunsparks, by the way. I mean, these are all their top picks according to their role. Even the Alistar, even the Fiora too. But for the side of Liab Esports, again, like we did mention, is the Corki going on to the hands of Exocen or is it going to go on to the hands of Gambit? We have yet to find out, but looks like it's going to be an Exocen Corki in the middle lane with the Ezreal onto Gambit. So lots of magic or AP damage abilities coming from the side of Liab in here. What do you say about the matchup between the comps?
Top side, usually that's going to be a hard matchup for Nixu. I mean, most of the time, you usually see Fiora winning that 1v1 matchup against Camille. I mean, there are some opinions that say it could be a skill matchup, but at the end of the day, when you use the Hextech ultimatum towards the Fiora, you're basically trapped with the Fiora, and then that's just vitals. 4 vitals, and then you activate your ult on the Fiora. So, gonna be that automatic response too once they saw the Camille. Okay, let's lock in the Fiora in case that's gonna be at the top portion because they've managed to reveal the Gragas. Basically, you can just swap the two, whether or not you want a jungle Camille or a top lane Camille. I guess they're putting that towards Nixu because earlier Nixu was the one on that Gragas pick.
Yeah, and other than that, what I'm seeing in here in terms of win conditions for Sunsparks, if they want to get this win, they need to go for that aggressive Lee Sin plays. Try to punish, maybe not the Ezreal. I'm not too sure if it's going to be the Ezreal Lux. It's going to be tough because the light binding is going to be there. Maybe they can eye for the Camille. Who's actually going for the jungle? Is it going to be the Gragas or the Camille?
It is the Gragas, I believe. I think it's on
in the jungle.
I think. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if it's going to be a Camille Baron side, so it's something that also the Lee Sin could also go for an early punish into. But for the side of Liab Esports, the win condition I'm seeing in here is that they got a utility support. So if we talk about the matchup between a tank support that must go front line, and he's just getting the pokes coming here from that Ezreal and that Lux, so it's gonna be tough to give enough protection for the Kaisa, especially if it's just even if it's a 2v2 situation, and maybe until the Kaisa is able to get the upgrades in her ability. So it's gonna be tough. Maybe they can eye for that 3v2 in the bot side if they got the Ariana ganking together with them. But again, this is a Corki mid, very fast in terms of responses, lots of dashes as well. So now they're just gonna be playing along not just their win conditions, but how they're gonna be microing each other.
Yeah, you mentioned micro. There's a lot of safety on towards Liab. I mean, you've got the hook shot, you've got the Valkyrie from the Corki, you've got the Arcane Shift coming from the side of Gambit. I mean, Moraito Boy, he is on the Lux, a little bit vulnerable, so possibly one of the most vulnerable members from the side of Liab. But I suppose that's something that they could take advantage of, because when we look at how they engage, I guess Liab does have a lot on the board. But this is game number 2 now between Liab Esports and Sunsparks. Of course, Liab hoping to make this a 2-0, but Sunsparks wants to get back into this series and make it into a 1-1 after an interesting finish from game number 1.
Okay, interesting to say. I find it interesting too. I was actually hoping to see an invade. They got an Alistar. They got a Lee Sin. They could have gone for an invade onto the top side part of the map. But I guess them losing the first round, maybe they just want to go play it chill. But again, an aggressive Lee Sin in the early stages of the game can turn things around and can help you go for an early lead. But I understand. I mean, these are just thoughts that we have in mind what the composition might do in order to achieve the win that they need. What I just worry about is that, okay, if we're gonna be playing passive as a Lee Sin, then we might be allowing the dual laners on the side of Liab Esports to get what they want. But yeah, let's see how this will go. Anyway, it's just the early stages of the game.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it would be a little bit worrisome for Exocen. Again, for Liab Esports, they usually play around Exocen in the mid lane. So, one minus threat, I suppose. Exocen will not have the roaming lane that he wanted. But I guess Sunsparks I guess this is what you mentioned. They're happy with this invade for sure. Just like earlier, they managed to get a 3-buff start because Red was already taking 2 reds for Fate, and then Blue buff just waiting for him at home.
Okay, I was just so excited about having that Lee Sin invade, but it's just gonna be a little bit of late invade. But meantime, I feel like we need a support coming in for Fate before he gets light binded by the Lux.
Light binded by the Lux, but there's the headbutt and the knockup. Actually, 5722 might be in deep trouble at the bottom side of the map. He's quite low, but we'll get that honey fruit in. He is just level 2, so a little bit vulnerable actually in the bottom portion of the map. Still no shockwave for that playmaking potential. But I guess just that's about it. No summer spells. Actually, a barrier was forced out of 5722. Meanwhile, Moraito Boy though had to use his flash earlier.
For sure, but still though, good start for Sunsparks. Despite lacking in terms of gold lead, they did manage to secure 3 buffs for that Lee Sin. Loving the rotation, the backup that has been coming in here, but meantime, mid lane.
Yeah, the mid lane for EXO, I suppose he cannot afford to be aggressive against this Kaisa, and the fact that there is still a roaming bull cow. Bulls are cows, right? Never mind. Don't answer that question. Maze might roam as well towards the mid lane, so it might be a little bit too risky for Exocen to be a little bit aggressive on his Corki pick. But then again, because his lane is a little bit shoved most of the time, Devil J might be in a little bit of sticky situation. He doesn't have that HP lead, but he's fine for now.
Yeah, for now, chill out a little bit, but everyone's gonna go for, at least majority is gonna go for a reset in preparation to the next objective that is about to come out. But the question is, who's got a better position? Who's in a position to go for an early contest into the area? Is it the type of composition that Liab Esports has, or are we gonna go for an early contest for Sunsparks? Definitely, I will feel like Sunsparks might be in a better position, but instead of going for a position onto that, they will just go eye for an early turret take.
That's true. It is. I mean, 4 minutes is in. You know, the buffs in the turret has already expired, so might as well just trade the turret for the first dragon. I mean, you're kind of sacrificing damage, early game damage on this Infernal Drake, so I suppose they're willing to give that away, but in favor of early setups on top side, because they're now jumping in for the next tower.
Okay, yeah, 2 turret stake onto the top side. Meantime, for Liab Esports, they will get the Infernal Drake plus a tower onto the bot lane part of the map too. In the middle lane, we just can't see that, but I think it was just a shove of minion waves, but it quirky. Overall, what do you think about that exchange? I mean, I think it is a 2 for 2 objective takes as well, but I think onto the late game, I might still be eyeing onto the dragon take that was taken by Liab, because they did manage to get another turret on the bot side too. It's
That's
a 2 for
true.
2.
I mean, they were able to at least exchange it with one tower and then one apiece of the dragon. I think one thing that Liab should be worried about is the dragon setups earlier. If you don't have the minion wave shoving across Sunsparks, then you're going to end up in a 4v1 situation unless you get that teleport as well for Nixu. So that is, I mean, they do have a strong a 4-man, right? Without Nixu, it's fine. They've done this before. They've done this in game number 1. So I guess we'll have to check out if Liab Esports is able to return the favor, maybe push down bot side perhaps, or find an opportunity, get a Rift Herald win, and then transition that into a topside push.
Yeah, for sure. For the meantime, quite an undecisive move coming from Nixu. If he's gonna be joining the team fight or gonna be going for a push, but I guess they don't want to repeat what happened from the previous game, despite it was actually Sunsparks having that Camille. So the Camille in here is just gonna be joining the team fight, and let's see what action might happen.
Yeah, we'll have to see, because Liab just trying to back away, but they find a lone member across from Sunsparks. He is all alone, but the fight is actually cut in half, as we can see that that's a set coming from Maze, but he's the first one to fall. That is going to be first blood, and that we see the Fiora actually getting activated. That's a double kill, and Devil Dude at the time of his life, that's a triple kill. The bind is there. That's his 4th kill, quadra kill onto Devil J on this Fiora. It's happening again from game number 1, and Sunsparks is rewarded with this Rift Herald.
6.7k onto the hands of the Fiora, getting a quadra kill as we start our day 1 here at the group stages of South Luzon. Now, this time, Liab Esports must be very careful about having a matchup against the Fiora again, because for sure, Nyx is going to be having a tough time against a Fiora that has 2 or 3k gold lead up against him.
Phew. Yeah, he's 1 item ahead against Nixu here. So, I mean, Camille Fiora matchup is already hard, I suppose, as the game goes to begin with. But you're 1 item, he's 1 item ahead of you, which makes things a little bit harder, which makes the squishies of Liab harder, life's harder as well. Exosin, Gambit, Moraita Boy, plus especially Nixu, since they'll both be banging heads when they try to do split push later on. So again, Devil J getting the game that he wants.
And he's not even afraid to even go for a 1v1 matchup onto the Camille, onto the top side. Just gonna get that position. If you are to put a pressure onto the top side, definitely some of the members of Liab Esports will be just forced to back up and help the Camille up there. Meantime, them giving the position onto potentially allowing Sunsparks to get the 2nd dragon of the game.
That's true. That means, just as you mentioned, Sunspark is in a comfortable spot. They can just send Devil J pushing at topside, or you use that lead to eliminate Liab, any of the squishy targets. But again, Liab still just trying to farm it out towards the mid game. They do want to pick up their Triforces, especially for Exosin and Gambit and everybody else. And let's see how this mid game composition goes. We didn't really get to see yet the wombo combos, you know, the binding, and as well as all the mystic shots. But Nyx is practically going to be absent. For sure, as the fight actually starts at the top portion of the map, a 2v2 situation, as we can see on your map, as that's Devil J actually getting shut down, and Fate might be the next one to fall in the cast, or rather the big one, the big shot comes from Exostin.
Oh my.
Whew, what, Liab, what a comeback there, as they've managed to get a shutdown on towards Devil J.
Yeah, quite unfortunately, we did not see that, but I'm pretty sure in the minimap, if you were aware, but hold a thought, because it matters.
That's the shockwave, but it don't matter, as Miggy secures the kill with that tower dive. And Liab, they're on a roll. They managed to pick themselves up after that fight in the Rift Herald.
Team lost a turn.
Fine, you know what? I mean, I think the mistakes that have been committed by Sunsparks quite repeatedly, even from round 1, was that they sometimes go for objective kills, but not objective takes like that of structures or in particular the dragons. But for the meantime, in a way, death timers aren't that heavy as of yet. So wait.
Oh, okay. Whew.
Okay, I thought that was a steal. I was waiting for the announcement. So yeah, that dragon will be secured by Sunspark. Still no final spark secure from the Lux. But that was a nice attempt.
I know, it was definitely a nice attempt from Liab. They were quite far. They needed to do the reset, and the reset, unfortunately, was not the timing that they wanted. I guess it's fine, I guess. You do still have the Infernal Drake in your favor. And for Ocean, I guess, what was I supposed to say? Physical and spellbound. Still very important in fights, but they can make do. But looking at their itemization, Exos and Now and Gambit are on their spike, their 2-item spike. So they should be a little bit comfortable now entering into these fights.
Yeah, you talk about magic bomb from this Ocean Drake. That's gonna be very useful, especially for the Kaisa. But for the meantime, looks like there might be a turret takedown. No, it's not gonna be enough apparently though. But I mean, I'm getting confused as to so far where these teams would want to go for. But this is a very confident play. I'm not too sure if this is actually safe.
I mean, that's a teleport coming in. That is a teleport. Boots actually getting swapped out. He had enough money. And that will be the jungler down. Faith, Sunspark. They saw the jungler down, and that's a headbutt pulverized combo coming from Maze. Killer Instinct being activated as well to secure the backline. They're able to eliminate Exosen, but Gambit is still alive. Nice body slam. Flash combo. They're still alive. What a call coming from Liab. They're able to still secure that Baron. They were worried that, okay, Miggy is just so far away. Mystic Shot will not connect. But swapping the boost to teleport, and then getting that teleport play in the jungle. I mean, whew, they didn't even have package at that time. Good call by Liab Esports.
As well as I think Sunsparks was a little bit too excited about getting that Baron. I'm pretty sure they had a vision that there were like 2 or 3 members nearby behind the wall of that Baron pit. It's just so happened, I guess the confidence was put on because they saw like, okay, the rest of the 3 members of Liab was scattered all over the map. But hey, I mean, teleports are in here. Nixu can back up. Even Corky, Exosem, hold on thought because we have another
Okay,
fight.
what I deploy very, very deep trouble, but that is the cast. That is the binding activated as Maze is the first one to fall. Shockwave, but the body slam flash coming from Miggy is super effective. Nicely done hit, Dragon's Rage. But now another fight ensues as Devil J is in the middle of it all, actually trapped in that ultimatum. And he reaches his ultimatum, which is his death. That's a bunch of death timers. Only one survives as Liab Esports already marching towards the base of Sunsparks.
This is gonna be tough. Now Liab Esports will be even able to go for 2 inhibitor turret takes in the mid as well as even onto the top. Still have to respect the death timers as Mace and Sets will be over, go back alive. But I think someone's trying to hit the Nexus already. Very excited, but then again, like what you mentioned. Oh, but hold up thought. Are they gonna go for a fight?
Yeah, death timers are long, but Liab Esports had to go through 2 towers, 2 layers of towers, but that means they still have the Baron. There is the kick. Where is the kick? Still not there. Face coming in. As you can see, Devil J trying to get the flank in. They're actually focusing their efforts on towards Boraitha Boy. And as you can see, Miggy is on a killing spree with Devil J actually eliminated already. but their super minions charging towards the base as Sunsparks still forced to defend. Liab Esports is going to get that reset.
I think this is the time wherein we realize that yes, indeed, a tank support is gonna be having a tough time dealing with all the pokes that's coming from both Ezreal, that Lux, as well as Exosense 4K. So, I mean, we can see Mei is just having a tough time soaking in all the damage that Liab Esports has been putting off. So, now, the question I guess is, okay, given that Maze is having a tough time frontlining for us, then what can we do? What do they need to pick up first? And that is the question. Maybe they can eye onto potentially just shutting down Corki first? Or maybe Nixu, because Nixu locking up a target from the side of Sunsparks giving them a headache.
That's true. I mean, Nixu right now building a bunch of items for his survivability. So if you sort of focus your efforts onto Nixu, it might take a bunch of time and effort and resources to shut him down immediately. And Exos and Gambit, anyway, this is the siege. There's the headbutt polarized. There's the kick on towards Exosen, and he's the first one to fall. And that's going to be a 4v5 situation for Liab, and they're not going to be happy about that. Ultimatum used as Devil J will try to retreat to the fight, as that is the killer instinct used as well. There's a bunch of focused targets here as the rest of Liab falls one by one. Woo! Actually, Liab is able to get that triple kill as Gambit secures 3. And Devil J's the only one here. And they're now hoping to get that next assist. They have the minion wave actually being there. Their focus is on the Nexus. No, their focus is on Devil J, but it don't matter as they secure game number 2 for themselves. And Liab Esports ends this series into a 2-0 against Sunsparks.
Quite dominant indeed, especially basing on how they're gonna go and place themselves into team fights. You did mention a while ago, Riku, while we're seeing the team fight in the bot side part of the map. Okay, there's a lot of focus in here. Different focus, actually. I think I did see 3 focus targets coming from the side of Sunsparks in particular. I think also Kaisa went for a killer instinct onto the back line. Yes, he did secure a kill onto one member of Liab, but then again, Liab just focused onto eyeing the proper targets as well. I think Devil J was the main focus as well onto shutting down, or was it Fate if I recall? No, that was Fate, I believe. So shutting, there no more Dragon's Rage, and there no one else to actually make it hard for their life. So they just focus on to going from front to back and not really eyeing onto, okay, let's go target and assassinate who's in the back line. So I think that's what's made Liab Esports win this fight that we see a while ago. And Gambit, my goodness, 805 a while ago is the one who's the least deaths as well, just having 1 death in round 1. So we can say that Gambit was well protected all throughout in these 2 games.
I remember you were asking earlier, like, who do you prioritize? Maybe you kill Exosen first? And I mean, that's what Sunsparks did. But Gambit was able to stay alive and deal as much as DPS as he can on the Ezreal. And I remember we were talking about how safe all these picks are. You have the Valkyrie from the Corki, you've got the Arcane Shift from that Ezreal, and a bunch of shields coming from Oraita Boy on the Lux. So it was beautiful to watch. And yeah, Gambit had amazing and precise positioning for both of these games. So I'm not going to be surprised if he's going to be, again, master of the match for game number 2, but we'll have to check that out. Check that out later.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not just about the life-saving supports coming from Oraita Boy, but then again, the positioning. And I guess at this point in time, we did see that there is also a lack of focus fire from the side of Sunsparks. Just like what we see in here in the play of the game, brought to you by Oppo Reno 5. In the early stages of the game, we did see how Sunsparks actually would go for that early quadra kill and trying to go for contest into Dragon Pits as well, or even the Baron Pit. But sometimes they're gonna get punished if they position themselves way too early, not being very ready. And I think the synchronization wasn't that at par in comparison to what the members of Liab Esports has. And it's quite quite unusual because again, we were talking about okay, these are high school friends that has been all together, but something different came up in here.
Yes, definitely something different. I guess props to Liab again for fast calls. We saw Miggy at the bottom side of the map and Sunspark's call, okay, let's hit Baron. It's our time to shine. And all of these bottom plays, bottom fights were that decisive and impactful outcome where Liab was able to at least be able to try and finish off the game and get that ace. And yeah, just as you mentioned earlier, Kaisaya, they've had different focuses. Killer instinct here, killer instinct there, but of course, we got the master of the match.
Ooh.
It's Gambit once again on his Ezreal.
My oh my, no deaths at all in that match that has a lot of team fights. So basically he was able to place himself in a good position, and of course gotta commend the shields coming in from the Lux as well. I think everything was mastered by Gambit in here in terms of the picks that he will be securing as an ADC. So really commendable. Congratulations to Gambit, Kevin Dison for getting this master of the match again. Now, Sunsparks will have another game for our third series today, Riku, and it's gonna be against Omega Esports. The question is, how are they gonna be placing themselves into their position later, not now that they have actually lost on a 2-0 score against Liab.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think for the first day, it's a really good preview to sort of dip your feet on the water and see where you stand in everything after day number 1. Again, we still have day number 2 for the conclusion of the first round robin. But just as you mentioned, Omega Esports just managed to 2-0 execration in a very dominating fashion. For Liab, it's a little bit close. Game 1 was just super duper close. For game number 2 though, once Liab is able to come online with all their item spikes, we saw how, Gambit and Exosen just managed to synchronize all their item spikes, the same items basically on their inventory. And it was very nice to see all of these confident plays, and looking forward to see Sunsparks getting that reset basically in coming for that next match.
I don't know why, Riku. I'm smiling and laughing inside as of the moment because whenever there's Liab and I see you, I can still remember the memes that we've got in there. The inside jokes and everything. But yeah, if I recall correctly, did you vote for Liab this time?
Okay, that's a little bit of background for in the chat or for the audience, because back in PCS, for the league PC scene, for the SEA tournament, I usually just vote against Liab. And I'm in Tagalog, I usually am like the kontrabida, the villain for Liab. But this time, I guess it's a different story. I actually voted 2-0 Liab against Sunspark. So we'll have to see. Maybe I'm a villain elsewhere. A change of life, a change of what do you call this? A change of my state, basically. But anyway, we still have a third match coming in tonight, as we talked about, Sunsparks versus Omega. But before we head on over to a panel, we're going for a short break. My name is Riku, and together with me is Kaisaya, and we'll see you in a bit.
Welcome to Wild Rift.
When you feel it's hopeless, when you think that you lost, We just keep on fighting and we never look back. Here we go, 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 let us heal and grow. You won't be alone, we're unstoppable. Don't be afraid to show what we're going for. This is what we know. Here we come, my tears, we're still breathing. Standing up, everybody's gonna see it. Oh, all you need to know is that we're holding on. Even if we fall, we will rise up and we follow the path that we believe in. No, we're not gonna stop until we reach it. Oh, all you need to know is that we're holding on. We rise up from the dust and claim our throne. We rise up from the dust and claim our throne. We rise up from the dust and claim our throne.
Welcome to Wild Rift.
You know what? Everyone keeps predicting a 2-1, but all we're seeing today are 2 zeros as Liam
I know,
Esports
right?
takes the second series against Sunsparks
The
and
Yuka
taking
post.
home 50,000 Globe Cup points as well. It's all 2 zeros. But I should add, these have been really, really, really close games. Now, we're just going to break this down a little bit more closely because, again, these were such close games. But before that, I'm actually really curious. Yuko, I remember you had a marathon casting job at the preseason. I actually want to know how different is the Liab team from then compared to now because they are, quite literally on fire.
Yeah, they are literally on fire. And the improvements that they shown was basically is the fact that they can position very well now. And they're more firm with the decision making. Like, should they get Dragon? Should they contest? Should they get Baron or go with the turret instead? And they basically just played around the meta a lot better now compared to how they were in the preseason. And to top it off, they just have a wider selection of champions now. So it just helped a lot for their team.
You know, a few months can do wonders. A few months of training can do wonders. And I guess this Liab just looks so different from how they were playing during the preseason. And they're definitely a force to be reckoned with. And you know what? I do agree. They seem a lot more focused now. You can really tell when the team just like, goes for all of those objectives. And, you know, they're just like of one mind currently. You can all see when they're, you know, focused on one lane or when they're focused on one champion. And I believe Kaisaya mentioned it as well, that they were extremely focused during this game, and that's what made them a little step higher than Sunsparks in this certain series. Now, going into game one, I like the idea from Sunsparks. Yuko, you mentioned how they were trying to go for a split push, or they do like favoring that strategy, and we saw that with Devil J. He was trying to go for that, but why exactly didn't that work out or work towards Sunsparks' favor?
All right, so let me talk about that split push or the last few minutes of game number one. Camille, Devil J should have just went back to base. And I understand that maybe he thought he can just try to take out Nixu on this Gragas. But the fact is, it's pretty tanky and he was able to play around the Nexus. And by the time Devil J realized he needed to go back, yes, he casted the TP, but it was in an area that Nixu can just easily cancel. So he was not able to go back. And for the composition of Sunsparks, yes, I'm looking at my notes again, my trusty notes. Basically, it was just if Olaf gets taken out, it's gonna be a problem for them. And yes, they had the sustain. Their spike was actually in the early or in the mid game. Second half of early game up until the mid game. Of course, you have Enchantress, you have Seraphine, you have so much CCs, right? And we also saw a Galio there, so it was really good. But I believe in this series, Sunsparks, they did well. They're really good in the early game, even in game number 2. But I guess they just had few struggles when it comes to closing out the games.
What about you, Osiris? I'm actually wondering what Sunsparks could have done to turn the game around, because it really was a close match. I mean, we did see the charts, we did see the graphs, going over to Liab and then going over to Sunsparks, and by mid game going over here to Liab. So what could they have done to turn that around? Just focusing first on game one.
Yeah, I also talked with Crazy Apple, one of the analysts from League of Legends PC, and we both noticed that this is a Olaf and Camille team composition that's well fed already. So we are talking about a split push type of Sunsparks, but they're also forgetting that this is a team fight type of lineup. So what happened was there's no Camille, one of the well-fed. So technically, same as what Yuko's pointing out, that when there's no Olaf, there's no game. But you have Camille as your substitute. But if there's no Camille and there's no Olaf, you definitely have nothing to go on with all of the utilities. So what Liab did, they removed Seraphine. They started out with Sona, removed Seraphine, and it's the raid boss alone that's being left out with no heals, no shields, no mobility, and Camille is split pushing. So there's a lack of punch from the lineup from the get-go of the Baron. And one takeaway was that is D was thinking that they're going to push into the mid. It's already super minion. You still got second tower, but what happened was there's a huge crashing wave from top side with 5 siege minions. So Liab went in to top side, and that's the time that they realized that Olaf can defend alone. There's no utility at all. So he tried TPing in, but the cancel was there, and it was history.
And going into game number 2, as we check out our series highlights, Hugo, I want to get your thoughts on this as well, because I actually thought we were going to see our very first 1-1 here, because Sunsparks had the lead for quite a good period of the game. But Liab, as Kaisaya mentioned, actually they were just a lot more focused here, which was really, really important. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, and I do agree with what Miss Kaisai said that Liam is a lot more focused now. And we said this earlier, decision making is on point now. And the highlights, it just shows us so much tension. Like, we thought there was going to be a game number 3, but Liam just proved us wrong. They want to apparently go home early. They want to end the series early. And even in game 2 earlier on, Camille Devil J was able to get a quadra kill. And that's a huge advantage, especially you're the Baron laner. You're Camille, you're very mobile, you have a CC type of composition. Also, let me just throw in this trivia real quick. If you guys saw Camille pop that Hextech Ultimatum earlier in the Dragon Pit, that is basically where Gragas throws his cast or his barrels. Like, they know, of course, there's gonna be their teammates and there's gonna be at least 2 or 3 people from Sunsparks within that dome. So it's and he was in the safer side. So that's just a free hit for him, basically.
I mean, look, we just saw it just now, just like, that cast coming in from Gragas and everybody just, runs away on the opposite direction. Osiris, what are your thoughts on this?
This is more like emphasizing what Yuko told us, that the Hextech Ultimatum plus the explosive cast, we are talking about this is a baby Ziggs type of play. Because when you drop the cast, there is a less chance of you putting him on a safe side because you got the dome, you got that baby arena. So you still got the burst. By having also the light binding will be surely is going to hunt someone down. You're also putting on the mystic shots inside the Hextech Ultimatum. So everything is in line with that single target coming in from Camille. One good point also that we've been noticing alongside with Crazy Apple is that the wave equilibrium. Bottom side, XSN, mid side, XSN was having a hard time on the core key, supported by the Braum, but on the bottom side, it was Gambit who's doing the freeze. And you saw a 4-man gank on a level 2 Orianna because of the freeze. So there's a big play coming in on the minds of Liab that the equilibrium is in their favor and they can just do plays all around. The desperation play that you wanted that Kaisa to go online on the earliest stages puts him on the mid. But Orianna suffered on the dragon lane by those freeze lanes and they came out empty-handed and it was a snowball coming in from Liab.
I mean, it's so interesting that you point that out, because this is the metagame coming in. These are the mind games coming in from the team, and this is what puts them on a whole other level. Yuko, do you agree with this? What are your additional thoughts as we wrap this up?
I do agree, yeah. And to ponder a bit more on what Osiris said, freezing and the minion wave freezing that he mentioned earlier is basically you make sure that your opponent does not get that much minions, which is why Orianna had a very, very low level the moment she got ganked to where she is. And we usually see this in TC. I barely see it in Wild Rift, honestly, but seeing Liab do it now, I'm so happy. So props to Liab for showing us that.
And I really love that you guys are, talking about that and bringing that into this discussion because it just shows how much of a step up, players from League of Legends PC have going into Wild Rift. We can say that's a new game. We can say that it is, mobile, works differently, but there are still some fundamentals that carry over. And this is where, the old guard, the professional players from way back when have that edge now. Going into our standings, of course, we're checking out who is on top of our Globe Cup points over here. We do have Omega Esports and Liab Esports tied both with 50,000 Globe Cup points. Execration and Sunspark still yet to get on the board. But hey guys, it's day one. We know that these guys are, need a little bit of time to warm up and eventually they will be back with a vengeance. And you know what? I feel like going into our third series of the day, this will definitely shake things up a bit. I have a feeling, since our third series of the day is between Sunsparks and Omega, I have a feeling that Sunsparks may have had some time to download some information from Omega and vice versa. Just looking at how the first 2 series went, how different do you think this is gonna go? Osiris, let's start with you.
Well, this definitely a big change. We saw Omega doing their own thing, and then Sunsparks as close as this on those decision making. So I think Sunsparks still can go ahead of this, but Omega, surely they will put a really solid fight right now.
Yeah, definitely. Looking at the Sunsparks lineup first and foremost, Yuko, refresh our minds over here as to who these guys are and how do you think, based on their performance earlier, how do you think this match is going to go down?
All right, so you guys see these dashing men in your screens with their IGNs down below. Yes, they lost their series, but this is a huge opportunity or a huge opening for them to just calm down, recuperate, and just go back to the drawing board and just see their plans again. Again, they have a very, very good early game. I cannot stress that enough. Game 1 and Game 2, they honestly have it. They have the aggression and they know what to do. But if they're gonna be up against Omega's strength is literally in the mid lane and late game. So if they want to shut down a team or in this day one, it has to be Omega.
And because of that, I feel like this has to be, they have to get that edge in the early game and the mid game and end this quite quickly if they want to go on. But let's check out our solo player highlight right now. We are going to be highlighting Maze over here from Sunsparks. Osiris, let me hear your thoughts on Maze and his performance earlier as well.
Well, Maze doing supporting still really good in terms of feeling, saving his comrades. Really had a hard time against Lia, but no questions from this guy. He is excelling whenever that they wanted to do a split push, whenever that they want to go in. Yes, we saw them on his own Seraphine. One thing about that is this guy assisted the jungler just to make sure that they get the triple buff. So you're getting the shenanigans also from this guy. So it puts a lot of help and assistance from the support to take those early advantage, and Maze is not a big of a question.
And it's really, I find it really interesting that, you have Sunsparks coming in from the previous series. I would say they are riding on a little bit of momentum as well, because they did have a very close game against Liab. That might have been, like a really good workout. You're really warmed up now, and I feel like they're really going to bring it for Omega Esports. But then again, Omega Esports, they are riding the momentum from their earlier win. So just checking out again, Omega Esports' lineup over here. And Yuko, I just want to know what your thoughts are on these guys. We saw an amazing performance from them earlier. How do you think they're going to match up against Sunsparks?
Basically, this team, they start the actual fight even in the pick and ban phase. So expect maybe a handful of respect bans, or they're gonna ban out champions that will stop their composition from going with the snowball. And I would love to keep my eye on JLC, because he, even though impressive was the MVP in Game 1 and Game 2, JLC was basically that guy in the back lines that made all of these things possible, opened a lot of opportunities and chances for his team to actually go with the gank. And again, you have time lapses in the back line and Stronger. I'm actually looking forward to seeing what kind of support or what kind of playstyle will Stronger show this time.
Yeah, and you know what? We were talking about how he was in the back line. He was in the front line as well. I mean, I remember him, tanking a whole lot of very, very close team fights too. So JLC definitely want to look out for. But right now, we are going to be highlighting one very impressive player over here. I mean, 3 guesses as to who we're highlighting, and the first 2 don't count because it will be impressive. And Osiris, just let me know how impressive this guy is.
Well, impressive. No questions from this guy. He's been on the roll. He knows what to take, what to play. But right now, player stats, we got Stronger. Not a big of a question too. One of the supports that we are seeing, the Braum ultimate from his match 1 against Execration. It was on point. He keeps on canceling anyone on the other side. Plus, adds up to JLC's power Garen. The duo is working well.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. And you know what, just going straight into our Globe key player clash over here, we are going to be having Fate here versus Impressive, and 2 very powerful junglers that we have here. Yuko, I mean, let us know who exactly you think will come out on top in this clash. I am scared to give out to try and
Yeah.
give any guesses right now because these guys are just too good.
You know what? Why do I always get the very controversial questions and difficult questions? Just kidding. I'm so happy. Basically, it's a battle of the junglers. Impressive. Showed us what he is made of during the series. Fate being very, very strong as well in their series. So basically, these two being up against each other, just gonna duke it out. Oh no. I'm gonna give it to Impressive just because I saw that once he clears the neutral jungle creeps, he just literally ganks every lane he sees. Like the first lane he laid his eyes on, he's gonna go there. And just a quick trivia, Impressive is actually one of the very first players in the Philippines to reach master rank during the beta.
Oh, that is very
Wow.
interesting. And Osiris, what about you? What are your thoughts on Fate over here?
Well, Fate is the one who's keep on denying the dragons against Liam. So I think this guy can go on par with Impressive as quick as that.
Yeah, well, you know what? We will see in just a short while. Before that, here we go again. Now I'm scared. I want to get your predictions on this. I honestly don't know what to say. Osiris, what do you think? Sunsparks or Omega?
I wanted to go with a 2-1, but it's raining 2-0s and everyone is really good right now. But I wanted to go with Sunsparks with 2-1. Omega is still there, but they might be doing a 2-0s again, but I'll go with Sunsparks.
And what about you, Yuko?
2-0 Omega.
Whoa!
I'm gonna
Okay.
I'm gonna throw in the towel. I'm just gonna go all in. If my predictions were wrong, okay, I'm sorry. But yeah, it's raining 2-0s, and
It's
you can just
possible.
feel the momentum that Omega has right
Yeah.
now, and I'm feeling it. That's why I was feeling brave enough to say 2-0.
You know what? I agree with that. I agree with riding on the momentum of Omega, but I also agree riding the momentum of the 2-0. You know what? Maybe I will agree with you there and give it a 2-0 in favor
Okay.
as well of Omega Esports. But let's see. We nothing left to do except to jump back into the rift. So casters, over to you guys. Thank you very much, Mika Fabs, Osiris, and Yuko. And we're here for the last match of this evening for day number 1 of our South Luzon group stages. My name is Riku. Together with me is Otoluz. And this will be our first time dueling for our casting business. Very excited for this Sunsparks versus Omega esports matchup. How about you, Otoluz? I mean, the panelists have answered their predictions. What about you? What do you think?
Well, for the predictions, it's crazy to predict during day number 1, especially for South Luzon. But before that, just like to throw a huge shout out to the viewers. Hello, this is Otoluz Desaya, and we're going to be in the casting desk for now, right? I know that you've seen me in the panel for quite some time, but yeah, to go back to your questions, Riku, who's going to win, Sunsparks or Omega? That is going to be very tough. But I'm going to counter Osiris on this one. Sorry, Yuko on this one. I think this is going to be Sunsparks that will be winning. And it's too tough to say that it's going to be a 2-0, so I'll be putting it a 2-1 score in favor of Sunsparks.
Ooh, okay. So countering Yuko, but now I'm gonna counter you because I think it could be a 2-0 based on what we've seen in their very first game. You know, Omega confident, very decisive against Execration. But then again, we haven't really seen Omega Sunsparks in the preseason, or for the Icon series at least. So it's exciting to see these two actually duke it out for I don't know, 6 days total for both of these squads.
Yeah, so it's going to be a very lengthy leg for South Luzon, so anything can happen. But for the first day, this is what we call testing the waters, right? They will be employing strategies that have worked before. They will not be doing so much or too many adjustments. So they're going to stick with their comfort, as we have seen earlier with Omega Esports employing a strategy in where they put Gragas in the mid lane and Garen on the top lane. Now, a quick trivia. I have heard right? Not sure if this is 100% certain. Arise has spammed Gragas on the mid lane during the qualifiers. So if Sunsparks can target that champion, maybe there is going to be a bit of a different storyline altogether for this particular match. Now, it's crazy to think, or it's crazy to predict what's going to happen, but if there will be a target onto Arise's Gragas, it's not going to be a surprise for me.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, constantly from North Luzon group stages, we've seen a bunch of Gragas bans already. I mean, the fact that you can just swap it in so many lanes from top, jungle, mid, maybe even support. I believe we've seen Gragas support once in the North Luzon qualifiers. But yeah, for Arise, maybe he's going to fall back to the usual, something that can play for the team. But speaking of, compositions that you mentioned, what do you think are the biggest strengths of Omega? What are the strengths that Sunsparks could possibly use this time around against Omega to actually, get a win on the first day?
When we talk about Omega, I have to really just, give them the benefit of being the most creative team out there when it comes to in-game plays, right? We have known Omega Esports as the kings of the backdoor. In fact, I actually would like to, pay a tribute that when Riot did actually just nerf the backdoor, my first team, or the very first team that did come to mind, was Omega Esports, because they were the ones that really made it famous. Now, when we talk about Sunsparks, we're talking about the Yasuo legendary player in 5722. I have been talking about 5722's Yasuo for the longest time during the preseason. It's because they are very comfortable in using it, and he is a very highly mechanically gifted player. So now it's all for the marbles. I'm not 100% sure as to what will be the strategies here, but will not be surprised if they will go for the Yasuo on the Sunsparks, and for Omega Esports they will play standard and having the Gragas in the mid lane and standard tank in the Baron lane.
Yeah, that's true. I think there's a lot of respect towards 5722's Yasuo. We've seen Liab ban it out, take it away, we're not going to be seeing, the usual Gragas, Wukong, Yasuo setup that we saw earlier. But yeah, you mentioned, creativity. We saw, Sunsparks try their shot on the Seraphine Sona combo, just trying to power the Olaf. So curious to see how, blue side, red side is going to go, because we didn't really get to see Omega sort of spread their wings just yet, see all of these different types of compositions.
Right. And yeah, speaking about Olaf, if Olaf is going to be picked, maybe this is the week that we're going to see a champion that we did not really see during the North Luzon. It's the support Lulu, right? I have heard that during the South Luzon qualifiers, the Lulu plus Olaf combination was very deadly. So this is something that is, I think, can really sneak up on us during the drafting phase.
Now that's actually very exciting to hear. A sudden Lulu pick. I don't think we've seen that recently for sure. So it actually fits. Maybe Arise's style. He is on that, I believe, Oriana most of the time as well. So possibly it fits. Put in that Lulu. If you have that Olaf for impressive, it really does work for sure. Same concept. You've got utility for like the Seraphine mid lane, but in a different form. You sort of transmugulate the Viking, basically.
Pixie!
Yeah, Pixie, go!
Right, and Lulu was heavily nerfed in the most recent patches, right? And that, I think, is the reason why she's no longer that viable. But when we talk about pro teams, they can make something unthinkable work, right? We're talking about Seraphine on the mid lane. We're talking about Sona and Seraphine on the Dragon lane. It's just crazy how creative these teams are. And both these teams, if I'm not mistaken, have coaches to really support their crazy gameplays. So it's very exciting. It's very tough to predict as to who's really going to win, Mega or Sunsparks.
Yeah, I know that is absolutely very difficult to answer, considering that we've seen the first few matches that we've seen today, but this is the third match. Omega Esports will be on your blue side, Sunsparks will be on your red. The draft has starting with an Olaf ban and possibly a Gragas ban.
Olaf, very strong recently, right? That's a revelation. He was also heavily nerfed in the most recent patches. So it just goes to show that once a team shows a champion strength, all the other teams will take notice. And that, I think, is the reason why Olaf is being prioritized in the banning or in the drafting. Now, to answer our question earlier, Gragas on the rise, not going to see the Rift Day.
Yeah, definitely not going to see that. And also sort of cancels the combo that we were talking about. I mean, the Yasuo is banned already anyways. Akali, the Trinity is open. Fiora, Camille, Akali at the top portion of the map, but can still be flexed elsewhere. And yeah, that is going to be possibly an impressive Camille or a JLC Camille.
Right, I'm thinking that it's going to be the impressive Camille because remember, during game number 2, impressive just popped off. But what I'm really happy about and what I'm really smiling about is because Sunsparks did their homework and banning the Gragas on Arise and the Garen on JLC. Now we're going to be seeing a different Omega Esports. This is crazy. And, the response by Omega Esports is to ban the Yasuo by 5722. So too much respect, so many respect, or so high respect being given by these two teams against each other.
Exactly, so many respect bans here and there. Therefore, teams are forced to go standard. This draft is looking like day number 1 of North Luzon, actually. The Braum Kaiser rotation, the Ziggs being open. So this sends more of these typical picks from day number 1 of our Icon series in general. And now Ziggs and Ezreal being picked up as well for Sunsparks.
Right, you are on point on that analogy because now we're actually going back. I think because we have time lapse here, we're going back to time, right? We're doing some throwbacks here, and now we have a Braum Kai'Sa, and on the other hand, we have an Ezreal plus Alistar. Where are the enchanters? They're gone.
They're gone. They're absolutely gone. Usually when you see a Ziggs, you usually see a Lux with them, and you're right. If this is going to be a lock-in on towards that Singed, it is going to be a Camille impressive over here. And yeah, a Ryze and Diana this time around. Very curious to see how that goes, but we'll have to see what Sunsparks decides to put on their last pick.
Really crazy. You think, what is that? Oh my god. Okay, alright. I thought that was going to be a double ADC composition. It's not going to be happening that way. We have a Wukong that is going to be locked in, and Fate is on that Wukong duty. During the preseason, he has shown flashes. He has carried Sunsparks on that Monkey King pick. And that's just the way it is, right? Give out the comfort picks during game number 1. If there's going to be any adjustments, we can do it game number 2. But this is going to be very interesting. As a Cinch main myself, I'm excited to see how JLC will play this one out.
Yeah, I believe we've only seen Singed once. It was during the North Luzon group stages, and not sure if it was Galaxy Racer that was able to bring it out or maybe next play. But yeah, what do you think about this, 1v1? Because usually, a Ryze would be falling back into that utility, but this time around, he's on this Diana pick, like very heavy duelist in the mid lane. Air quote duelist.
Well, okay, Diana versus Ziggs. When we talk about the early levels, right? Yes, of course, Ziggs can bully out. Well, because he has the range advantage. But once level 5 kicks in, the Diana pick, I think, is going to be a big trouble. And we're talking about multiple AoEs for the side of Omega Esports. You have an Hextech Ultimatum that is like a, hexagon or something. And then you have a Moonfall that is like a circle. Combine them both and you have a Venn diagram, and that's just a lot of AoEs for the side of Omega. And you also have a Singe. Never chase Singed. Number 1 rule.
Never chase Singed, for sure. For the side of Sunsparks, that will definitely be their number 1 thing. And yeah, I feel like I can imagine how annoying the Singed could be later on in objective fights when people start clumping in Baron pits or Dragon pits. So that's going to be a huge plus for Omega. But for Sunsparks, this Wukong pick for Fate here, we don't get to see too much of the layering, no ball delivery system, no Orianna to assist the Wukong, nothing of like the Yasuo of sorts, because it got banned basically in the draft. What do you think are going to be the biggest strengths for Fate this time around without those, wombo combos on the Wukong?
he can make it work, regardless of it being a wombo combo Wukong or an assassin Wukong or a fighter Wukong, setter Wukong. Doesn't matter for him. He knows his rotations and he can really help out his team. Now, what I want you to pay close attention to is going to be the top lane, right? We have an Akali versus the Singed. If a Singed gets bullied out by the multiple kunais, by the multiple moves, by this ninja, add up a Wukong that will just gank your lane, we can see a very, very big Akali in this game. And it's too scary. I'm being scared right now for JLC because as a Singed player, it's really hard to match up against an Akali. So don't know if they're going to hide this Singed onto a different lane, like do a lane swap. Remember, Mega Esports is very is not scared in doing lane swaps. During series number 1, they did 2 lane swaps. They don't care.
That's true. 2 games in a row in basically their match against Execration. It was an insta lane swap, and it fits too because I believe it was practically similar picks. It was the Kai'Sa Braum lane swap as well. I mean, it kills 2 birds with 1 stone, I suppose. But what do you think are the biggest strengths on, Omega so far are the only teams that did a lane swap in comparison to the rest of the squads that we've seen. We've seen Sunsparks, Liab, Execration already. What do you think?
Okay, when it comes to lane swaps, it's not just about the towers, right? I know that Riot did the nerfs on the towers, or actually did the buffs on the towers. They made it sturdier, they made it bigger, they made it stronger. But really, what concerns me when it comes to lane swaps is the jungle presence, right? And I think just looking at the 2 games that Omega Esports had earlier in where their jungler did pop off, right? That's where you will see the value of the lane swap. And that lane swap, you will not really be focusing on who's lane swapping, but what is the effect on the jungler.
Gotta love that analysis. Gotta love that breakdown on the lane swap. Possibly if we see it on towards Omega Esports. But now, game number 1 between these 2 teams. Sunsparks on the red side, Omega Esports on the red. And so far, that is the lane swap that we're seeing.
And 5722 just bullying out Diana, the Wonder Woman herself in the mid lane. But yeah, this is very much expected. You have 5722's range advantage, and those bombs will just keep on coming. Remember, this is a passive that gets shortened cooldowns whenever a skill is being thrown. As we see again here, impressive. No, it's just a hi and goodbye. But that's a summoner bird already.
Yeah, that is definitely a hi and goodbye. You're right. A summoner, at least both summoners as well. A flash and a barrier, so impressive. Could possibly take another visit, perhaps in the mid lane.
That definitely is what he will do very, very soon. Expect that to happen. But look at this. JLC being punished in the Dragon lane decided to just leave it off. Now it's not a 1-2-1. It's not a 1-3-1. It is a 2-2-0 laning phase. Explain that to our viewers, Riku.
What a wild visit coming from JLC. Take note, you mentioned already the buffs on the towers as well for their armor, but if it's just 2 champions kicking in, it's still just basically 10 armor and magic resist. So Sunsparks definitely happy about that little bit of chunk on towards the tower.
Yeah, Mega Esports really needs to punish this Ziggs. This Ziggs does not have any summoner spell left, no barrier, no flash in the next minute or so, and I'm 100% sure that this Braum, stronger, will make sure that he will help out Impressive in making sure that the jungle will be cleared out as fast as he could, and possibly do a quick gank in the mid lane. So the next minute or so, we're just going to pay attention on this Yordle on the mid lane as to how Omega Esports will punch this one out.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it is impressive on the Camille when you get that level 5, really better, stronger, rather when it comes to just isolating that target and trying to burst someone down. But here comes Rise, just poking and dashing a little bit, scaring 5722 a little bit, I suppose. Still no moonfall. But Rise very close to level 5, and I think this is where 5722 should be a little bit careful.
Right, 5722. Well, his summoners is almost up. Barrier is already up and running, so no punishment coming from the side of Omega Esports. But check that.
Yeah, there's the dash in, there's the bomb, but it won't do you any good as that is a sweep towards that first blood. Arise will be happy about that. Very patient on that level 5 Moonfall insta-kill.
Right, so the barrier wasn't enough. He needed that flash, but because that flash was already burned, you know, when we talk about Diana and his most recent buffs, we have to consider him or her as one of the strongest assassins on the mid lane. And that dive was very clean. Arise solo kill. That was a solo kill on the mid lane, mind you, Riku. That's just very good for Omega Esports.
Yeah, insane. We were talking about how maybe Impressive has to do a take 2 visit on the mid lane, but you know, not even needed. All Impressive had to do, help Arise just burn the enemy laner summoner spells, and Arise can just take it from there, basically. So, yeah, great start for Omega. This is what we expected when we see a Diana pick in the mid lane.
Right, so it's very much similar to a Katarina, only with shields and only with some, big crowd control in that Moonfall. As we see the Dragon respawnings, and I think Omega Esports and Sunsports would want to challenge this out. But wait, Sinch did not recall, so we're going to see a 5v4 on the Dragon.
Yeah, a 5v4, but that's a flash actually being used by Sets. He's going to be in the backline just doing the Mystic shot. But here comes the rest of Sunsparks as Omega sees the rest of the members coming from Sunsparks. Then they'll just back away and respect the numbers advantage.
A huge win for the side of Omega again, and it's not just burning the flash. He also burned the HP bar. Looking at Sets right now, he's almost 3/4 in health. So one engage can really be the difference maker here. Riku, we have the Dragon at 2,500 in health, and there's going to be a big fight.
Yeah, we can see JLC actually winning the fight. There is the flip, rather. He's actually entering the fight. The Cyclone being activated as well. 5722 and Seth just in the backline, but that means no damage at the moment. And as we can see, Impressive in the middle of it all, eliminating, as we can see, Devil J right off the bat. And here comes the chase. There's the Killer Instinct, and the following members are left from Sunsparks. Just 2 left under the tower, and the bombs will actually scare Omega away, but the Dragon secured by Omega Esports.
Omega Esports is crazy! What a play coming from Arise. What he did, or what she did on that fight, Wukong was about to smite it, right? But because of the Moonfall, she practically denied Wukong or Fate to smite it down, and that, I think, that big AoE, that big Moonfall, plus the half health from Sets and the pokes that did happen earlier before that fight even began already did favor Omega Esports, and that was a clean fight. It's a 3 for none, if I'm not mistaken, plus an Omnivan Ocean Drake to boot, so that's just a big win. And the next point of contention, check this. Oh, there's going to be a dive.
Oh no! Okay, I thought that push from Maze would have saved Stronger, but I suppose because a lot of the members were there anyway. But because this is a Ziggs, this is going to be a fast first blood turret in favor of Sunsparks. But at the other side of the spectrum, that is a Moonfall dive again towards Devil J. He is safe for now. The bomb will not reach JLC, and there are no casualties on that tower dive except that Rift Herald by the river.
Yeah, Airbolt coming from that Zigzag. It wasn't on point, or maybe Singe was just a bit fast. And you will see the itemization by Singe. Oh, this is very interesting. A Hextech Proto Belt enchant on that Singe, on that Mad Alchemist. I don't know. I haven't seen it, or I haven't tried that myself. Okay, I'll pay close attention to how he will use that Proto Belt enchant, because normally if I'm as a Singe, I will go for the Glorious enchant or a Teleport or something like a Shadow. This is the last item that I will expect from a Singe. Maybe I'll learn something from JLC here.
Definitely for JLC, just as you mentioned on that Hex deck. I suppose additional mobility perhaps for JLC in the fights later on, but just as you mentioned, we'll do check that out. And yeah, I think for Devil J, he's happy with that Rabadon pickup as well, so a huge chunk of damage on all aboard towards his Akali stick.
Right, so this is the win condition of Sunsparks. If Akali goes crazy, so will Sunsparks. And this is actually a trend already. Going for the hunting, guys, and it's not going to really be competed into a Leander's tournament. They see, or the pro teams think that, oh wait, there's going to be an ensuing fight here, Riku.
Possibly, as the tower actually destroyed already. Sunsparks unable to capitalize on Omega's positioning there, as now they're actually fighting towards this blue buff. As we can see, impressive actually chunked to a very huge amount. So the damage slowly kicking in, coming from Sunsparks.
Right, so just to complete my point earlier, hunting, guys, is no longer being completed into Eliandra's tournament. Well, it was a post-share, it was a preparation by Sunsparks to try and fight out Omega Esports, but they went back, and it's a good win, small win for Omega Esports, but slowly but surely they're enlarging this lead. They're increasing this goal lead, and at 8 minutes, with this 3K or 4K goal lead, you will be content, but you would want to press it to a different level or to another gear. And 20 seconds left until this Mountain Drake does does respond. And I think Omega Esports has this in the bag. Sunsparks is going to trade it for a tier tower on the top side.
That's true. Sunsparks doing it again, willing to exchange that early Drake for a tower. Gotta be
Something's
careful
happening.
for time lapse here. He's all alone. No, that's a 3v5, 3v4 situation on the top portion of the map. While impressive is busy with the dragon. Here comes the top side. Top side is a killing spree for Arise here on the Diana pick. And now Omega just trying to pick up the pieces, as they can see that Sunsparks is just trying to retreat rather. As a Guardian Angel, that's a 1v2 situation. Moonfall, look at that damage. Look at the burst and the dash and the dancing. Arise here on this Diana pick is dominating to get another tower to boot.
Devil J is in the area, but I don't think she can do a 1v4.
What 1v4 situations, but take note, there's a ton of CCs.
Oh, no.
There's the flip. He's actually able to assassinate JLC, hiding in the shroud. He's definitely happy about that.
Definitely. Well, this is a cinch that is not really all tanky, but you will see that there is a magic resistance already available. Force of Nature, an impressive, just clearing off a turret on the bottom side. Now, this is not really your standard composition in where your jungler will be the one splitting, but that is a Camille, and Camille is also known, or is almost always known, as a split pusher when it comes to this composition. Now, going back to my point earlier, right? I don't know, where did that damage come from? So Devil J is really a threat here because she can go 1v4 and she can go ham.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe if we can see that a little bit more coming from Sunsparks, they can sort of eliminate time lapse right off the bat, punish Arise from his very aggressive Diana. I mean, that's how a Diana plays, basically. But for now, though, Omega very happy with the lead that they have at this point, and now they're taking a bunch of different resources away from Sunsparks.
Right, and this is a 6-0-0 Diana. It's not something that you often see, or that we did see last week, right? Because normally when Diana was picked, or I think it's because they really did not have enough time to practice 2.2A with Diana, with the buffs. And Omega Esports right now is just more than ready to say that, hey, you know what? Arise is not a one trick on Gragas, and we can show you her Diana, and her Diana is just as deadly.
Absolutely, more picks for Rise, more incredible picks for this player. Now Baron is secured. They're on towards the chase. There's the Hex Tech being used, just a little bit of, showing his domination, his coming from the Singe, just scaring them a little bit.
I got excited.
But yeah, Baron secured.
I thought I was going to see, a highlight play coming from that cinch. Because again, it's not really the most common enchant that you will see on a boots, on a cinch. But you know what? JLC is making it work, and I'm going to support this guy all the way.
It does. I mean, I can't imagine it. Like you use the Hex Tech and then you flip someone. It's reminiscent of maybe from the League PC Volibear. But we'll have to check, as Baron now being used by Omega Esports to siege the towers.
Right, so with this 10k gold lead and with Baron being available, or the buff still available for Omega Esports, they will employ a 1-3-1 strategy. This is very standard, right? Just protect your AD carry and let your jungler and your mid laner do the split for you. Now, the point of, the backup point here, Devil J.
Yeah, Devil J is able to escape at least, but there is the knockup. There's the Cyclone towards Omega, and now they're on the run as the rest of Omega. Timelapse actually wanted to join the fight as well. JLC still good and well and alive, but look at the damage coming from Omega. Just a lot of burst, just a lot of pain as Omega just cleaning house as Sunsparks. In the meantime, though, impressive. All this time has been split pushing. They're aiming for the Nexus, and here comes another teleport, as that is actually a rise, but looks like it's still not enough. JLC tagging the tower, but he falls at the end of the day. That's still 3 members from Sunsparks going in, wanting to defend the tower. Here comes the collapse. Here comes impressive. They're actually focusing the tower, and they're happy about that.
Yeah, Mega Minions. So all inhibited turrets clear for Omega Esports. I think it was Infinity that did say it, that the Omega Esports play methodically, right? They make sure that whatever they decide upon is all about the real objectives of the game, and that was a clean display on how to utilize your Baron buff effectively. Again, that's a Baron buff that is powered, of course, by Oppo Reno 5, and look at that. A clean base for Sunsparks, and I think they have to really think about the next game because this is starting to, go dark. I'm not 100% sure as to how they're going to come back from this hole.
That's true. I mean, fully agree with you there, 100%. Sunsparks definitely on the back end right now, having to play from behind it because everything is open, but they're taking advantage of someone trying to pour back that base. And looks like that is the Moonfall being activated as well. Look at the damage, look at the burst. Now godlike for a rise. He'll be happy about that. Double kill for him. He is legendary. And now Sunsparks just wiped off the earth, except for 5722 just all that's left protecting the base and the minions, but you're not going to be strong against 2 people. The rest of the squad from Omega is now here with the teleport coming in. Now their focus is towards this Nexus tower with the minions climbing in towards the base of Sunsparks. They're circling around. They're making a little bit of dance towards the Nexus. What an ending towards Omega Esports game against Sunsparks in this game number 1.
That was a ring around the rosy, my friends. Omega Esports with a big statement, with a big exclamation point that they are here and here to stay in South Luzon Group 1-0, decimating Sunsparks in a very quick fashion. Oh my god, Riku, that was an intense game.
That was insane because all from the beginning, from the lane swap, everything was just going in their favor. All the Rift Herald fights, everything was just going in Omega Esports' way, and they really, I think the topside fight was a very decisive point of the match, which I believe we'll get to see later. But what an incredible finish. They were circling around that Nexus like it was a campfire.
Yeah, well, I hope that I have, the same, I hope I have a 5-man team, right? That I can do that with, right? Hopefully the casters can hear my call and maybe we can play, and in that 1 out of 10 games that we can dominate, then maybe we can do that thing
out
that
of
Mega
10?
Esports did.
Those are very good odds.
but right, okay, well, anyway, we are talking about Arise. Arise get backing that MVP. Look at that. Damage taken, most damage dealt. Name it all. It's all on the Rise. Arise just put on the carry pants, just decimated Sunsparks out of the blue. Ban my Gragas, I don't care. I'll show you how Diana is being used in competitive leagues.
Yeah, very clean performance. No deaths. I mean, you are using a Diana. Diana usually, if you go in, there's no way out. You're a full commit. And Rise just showed us how it's done being, that Diana player. And what an explosive game number 1. What a statement, basically. I mean, from start to ring around the rosy, basically, on that Nexus.
The belt was the proto belt singe.
It was that too. That was JLC's proto belt singed, basically, as well. So, it's a lot to pack, for sure. So,
right.
Help me break it down, like, from the beginning. Where do you think Sunspark started to struggle?
The early gank were impressive. Burning the summoner spells on 5722 was enough for Arise to assert her dominance, or assert his dominance, right? We're talking about Arise, one of the top mid players in the Philippines for the longest time now. When it comes to experience, you would have to tip your hat almost always on the Mega Esports. There's a reason why they are the rivals of next play, and there is a reason why they are almost always guaranteed to meet in the finals. That's because they have been so strong, so they have been so dominant for the longest time, and you give them, a few advantages, they're going to just spike it up, balloon it up, and snowball it into an avalanche.
Exactly. It makes me wonder what else they have in their sleeves, because again, the draft was just so completely different. We didn't get to see the usual bands like no Camille, no Akali. I don't want the Gragas. Well, we did see the Gragas band, but mostly a lot of respect bands basically, and it just molded into something different that I don't think we haven't. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we've seen this sort of Omega, and we want to see it again as we see the play of the game brought to you by Oppo Reno 5.
Yeah, that's the moonfall I was talking about. Just making sure to put a zone. Ziggs and Ezreal had no choice but to really back away from the dragon, and Wukong was pulled away. And this was the cleanup that we're talking about. I think this was the Braum that did overstay, and that's going to be a punish. But a punish that is not going to go unpunished, because that's going to be a trade for Herald. This was the play, I think. There you go. This was the double kill, or the triple kill by Arise, just cleaning things up on the backline. No escaping here, my friend. Two-man moonfall, and that's just it. Arise is crazy, man.
Yeah, Arise is basically the star player for this match in particular, in the Diana pick. Usually, we're talking about, okay, he's going to step back a little bit, maybe utility on the Gragas, but it was banned. He's showing us some stuff here on that Diana pick, and this is, very patient tier, as we can see, coming from the side of basically Omega here, as we see master of the match. Of course, no surprises. It's Arise on the Diana.
Right, but there was a sigh of disappointment from my part. You know where that came from? The ring around the Rosie did not get highlighted. That, I think, is the best play out of that game. But anyway, so we're talking about Arise here. Arise, look at this. It's an 11.00 KDA. When we talk about KDA, that's the amount of kills and assists that you dish out, or you live on the table per death. And when we talk about Diana, this is actually a deceptively tanky champion. You can consider her as a fighter, bruiser, mage, assassin. I don't know. You can name her all. And that, I think, is why Arise opted for the Diana pick, and he just showed why he's the master of the match.
Yeah, Arise just basically showed us how it's done here on the Diana pick, just as you mentioned. But yeah, Diana is just so many things because of the shield, because of how flexible and mobile a Diana is, and basically just showed us when or how to use all of those amazing moonfall timings. You brought up how beautiful it was executed around the dragon area at the very first dragon fight. So I'm looking forward to more of these Diana picks. I mean, we're just at day number 1 of our South Luzon group status, and we're seeing some spicy, dominating, and scary picks coming from the side of Omega and a bunch of our other teams here in South Luzon.
I would let go of the Gragas Ben, I think, or the Garen Ben, to make sure that that Diana was going to not see the rift once again, because that was crazy. I was clean coming from Arise. Man, add me up, teach me up some tricks, some moonfall tricks, because I really would need that for my rank points. Anyway, guys, again, that was a complete dominance from Omega Esports, but it's not just Arise that we have to talk about. The rest of his team did their part. JLC with the Proto Belt. I cannot just move on from that as a cinch main. I have 100 matches, by the way, on the cinch. So
That's a lot.
I'll try the Proto Belt later.
Yeah, it was definitely for that utility, for just as we were talking about the Proto Belt, you kind of flip someone, you Proto Belt, then you flip someone. So you don't have to use and consume a flash, maybe. Use a flash for that safety. It was just so incredible to see. And yeah, I guess impressive as well, having a lot of trust to the team. He was busy split pushing. He was wearing 2 hats, I think. He was like the split pusher and then the jungler at the same time, because he's on the Camille. He can afford to do so. So it was so nice to see that, trust between the other 4-man, because usually the 4-man that you see is the jungler is included. It's usually the solo laner that gets to do that solo 4-1.
Right, but in this game, they showed how to use the Oppo Reno 5 Baron play effectively. Just put it on a side lane, you have the jungler, you have it wasn't actually the Baron laner that was doing the split. It wasn't the cinch It was the Diana. Why? Because Diana can push down towers very fast. That passive. I tell you, Riku, this is really a revelation for South Luzon teams. The notice for South Luzon teams out there that if you leave Diana open, it's definitely going to get picked.
I think so too. I think the dynamics surely change now. It's usually the top laner bans the Baron laner picks that we usually get to see banned out, or maybe no Katarina, maybe a bunch of respect bans coming in again. Because Omega this time around is going to be on the red side, so I assume it's going to be the sort of the same bans. Like, you want to remove the Olaf because it might be the usual rotation, like the Seraphine Olaf first rotation on the picks for red side. So I assume a Sunsparks may run out of bans because there's only 2 bans. So what do you think's going to happen with the bans this time for Sunsparks? Now they're going to be on the blue side.
If I'm Sunsparks, I will definitely have to target that Diana, right? If I'm not going to ban the Diana, definitely have to have something up in my sleeve to at least counter, to at least level my play on that assassin pick. Maybe if they go for the same matchup again, like Ziggs versus Diana, they would tell 572 to not go all aggressive, because he was very aggressive during the laning phase. He was overextended, and that was very heavily punished by Impressive, right? So talking about the draft, I think it's very clear as the day, that we're not going to see Diana, because Diana is a moon, and as clear as the day, the points.
I like that. I like that. I see where you're going, Autolus. I see where you're going. But yeah, going back to the picks and bans, as you can see, Olaf for Omega and Yasuo, they do not want to see a rise in the Yasuo, or rather, they don't want to see 5722 on the Yasuo, because I believe the panel mentioned it. Sunsparks, Yasuo, it's basically sort of synonymous. So, what do you think? What are the other changes perhaps you could do to sort of predict what Sunsparks could do, so that they have either an easier time transitioning to maybe dragon fights, the early dragon fights and stuff like that?
You know what's interesting? During their fight, or during their game against Playoff, I was really rooting for them to win game number 1. And another thing that I did notice here, Galio was never banned nor picked. Wow.
That's true. Yeah. I
so
think
the Sentinel has just, I don't know, disappeared up there.
it's gone. It's so crazy too, because when we look at North Luzon, he was contested. When he was open, he was picked all the time. So I love the difference now when, the meta is shaping again for South Luzon. North Luzon specialty is this, and now we have South Luzon slowly molding into something else. But yeah, we didn't get to see Galio up in there because... Actually, would you walk me through, you think, the thought process for the draft this time around?
I think it was winless. Did Galio ever win a game today? He's a sad boy.
No, not today.
Okay, so I think South Luzon did actually find out or crack the code when it comes to Galio. Remember, this is 2.2a, and these teams did have a week or 2 weeks to prepare for this patch, right? Contrary to what happened last week, and where the patch did happen, or the change did happen in between the weeks. So Team Secret, Next Play Action PH, and Galaxy Racer only had a couple of days to prepare for the massive changes. This is something, they have prepared for. That if we're going to go and pick that Galio, we have something to counter it. And during the first series, it was the Garen, right? If I remember correctly, right? You go in with the Galio, with your taunt, it's just going to get silenced, and you cannot do an all melee composition against a Garen by JLC. Thus the respect, that's the ban, and I think that just makes sense. If you're going to go all in for the melee composition, you cannot go against the Garen. You'll probably just have to go against the Singed that has a proto belt. I don't know. I'm a fan of the proto belt Singed.
The new discovery brought to you by JLC on the Singed. But yeah, I think I really like, when we look at Execration, they were the ones that first picked the Galio for South Luzon, at least, and they keep combining it with the Diana pick. I actually love the idea. I love how you just, Diana enters the fight, and then Galio just ults in, so like that's double knockup. So I wonder if we're gonna be seeing that because Arise did pick up the Diana.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yesterday I was casting a finals game and it was a treat, right? No ADC composition and where a Diana was picked with a Galio, and I basically named that composition a Venn diagram because you have two circles, right? And if you're in between of those two, you just get massive AoE, you just get massive crowd control plus damage. And that was an all-female tournament, I tell you, Riku. So it was really a pleasure to watch. So if Galio gets picked with a Diana, I can really see it working.
Ooh, I love the name, the Venn diagram composition.
It's too nerd, I know.
it's a little bit on the, I don't know, like, is it a scientific thing? No, it's a language
It's
thing,
a
right?
comparison thing. I don't know.
It's a
You can-
Wait, where did we learn the Venn diagram? In our English subject, right? I think so.
You can actually have it on your law classes, like what's happening right now.
LOL
Go
classes,
on.
yes, that's what we're having right now. We're all getting school here, basically. But going back to the draft for Sunsparks, and I mean, very curious to see because we saw them in a very close match with Liab at their very first game. So what do you think that they can replicate to win against, that they can use against Omega and win and take it to a game number 3?
I know that Maze and Sets is a very, well, I don't know, I won't say standard, but a very veteran duo, right? Sunsparks did start with the two of them leading the fray and handpicking the others, but I think that it's time for them to really go for the enchanter supports rather than going for the tank supports. We're talking about Alistar that did show up again, and the pro teams in the Philippines have cracked it out. You won't see a free win on the Alistar anymore because you have seen the adaptation that has been done by these teams. You know, the lane swaps, making sure that you hide your losing matchups, and that was Omega Esports doing their thing. They hid Cinch. They know that Cinch cannot match up well against Akali. So what is the best way to do it? You don't put them on the same lane.
I love how you brought that up because you're right. They're not giving Sets and Maze the lane that they wanted, and of course, when we look back in the Liab match as well, it was Devil J that kept working his magic. And if you do the lane swap, Devil J's basically trapped under his tower because of the 1v2 matchup, basically. So Omega doing Omega brain things on their draft and as well as in their magic. Hey.
I see you.
I know, right? But so very curious to see what Sunsparks' adjustment this time around, because they've basically seen Omega twice today. But so they do have an idea based on how Omega can adjust here and there on what they did with Execration. So yeah, we'll have to see how that pans out. So Omega basically targeting so many things against Sunsparks' composition.
But if I'm going to be, at the shoes of Sunsparks, I'd probably target Impressive. Because if we do some root cause analysis on how it all started, it was Impressive on that jungle, right? So if you punch that jungle, maybe if you match up the lane swap and you don't, make it easy for Impressive to influence the early parts of the game, then maybe you can prolong the game into a latter stage or a latter part or a longer game time. And when it comes to the late game, I believe in Sunspark's ability to really do the proper shot calls and to really do the proper engage. Remember, this is a team that has worked their way up from, just being a Yasuo one-trick team to now a flexible team. And also, another thing to know, this is Sunsparks that we're talking about. This is the grand finalist for the preseason during the Icon series wherein they went against Team Secret. So it's too early to scratch them off the list of South Luzon. It's too early.
Yeah, it's definitely too early. We get to see this entire matchup thrice. We get to do 3 round robins, and we're just at our first, so it's still too early. They still have like a 1 week break to sort of assess how the weekend went, and then move on to like the next and final BO3 round. But yeah, I really like that detail you pointed out about maybe they should target Impressive on Omega, because we saw how Faith actually 2 games in a row, or maybe 3 games in a row, he would get a 3 buff start, almost as if the enemy jungler is sort of avoiding any sort of confrontation on basically Faith.
Right. And we're talking about Migi, a very good jungle player himself, right? But when we talk about jungle matchups, it's not fair for us to look at them individually, because in the jungle, it's heavily influenced by your teammates. And Impressive is being unlocked by Omega Esports. If you have to solve Impressive, you have to solve the team, right? And if you really want to target ban Impressive, maybe you can ban the Camille or something else.
Well, yeah, I mean, banning out the Camille, it's a 2 birds in
That's a
one
good
stone
start,
kind of
right?
thing. Yeah, you ban out JLC's pool, maybe he'll fall back into the usual Garen or Singed. Protobelt Singed, of course. And yeah, Impressive as well on maybe going back to the Lee Sin, maybe, the Vi Lee Sin, the usual heavy early game ganks with a chance to isolate a target. But now we're at game number 2 draft. Sunsparks on the blue side this time around, and Omega Esports on the red side. First ban from Sunsparks is a Gragas.
Still the respect on Arise's ability to influence the Rift using that Gragas, because Gragas is very... Oh, okay, so that's a Camille. I see you. Impressive is not going to get his hands on that Camille. So this time around, Garen is open, plus Diana is open. So maybe Sunsparks will prioritize Diana. We're going to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll have to see as, again, Sunsparks on the blue side. What do they prioritize? And you are right. The Prophet ought to lose with that first pick blue side Diana. Are we going to be seeing, the usual Ziggs composition coming from Omega Esports? But we've seen that matchup, and it didn't end well.
Yeah, definitely didn't end well. That's a good pick. That's a reason that will be picked for JLC. Garen, just a stable champion for JLC to stand his ground. And if, again, Sunsparks decide to go all melee, JLC will have the time of his life just zoning out almost everyone. There's going to be Kaisa that's going to be picked. That's a hyper carry, that's a check. But the question is there going to be a Galio here?
Oh yeah, Galio is still definitely open for the taking. Do they want a Galio in the mid lane? No, never mind. That's Diana already being picked up for 5722. But yeah, you're right. We saw the Garen pick before. You're up against air quote melee champions. Your Diana is there, Killer Instinct. When Kaisa uses that, you practically become melee-ish. So Garen is there for that air quote counter. But now hover towards the Galio. You're looking for the Galio, you get the Galio.
Yeah, so the Galio is on the hands of Esports. Okay, another circle champion. We have the Oriana. So I think this is going to be the Galio on support. So Stronger will be put to test on that Sentinel. So far, 0-3 or 0-4. So the Galio hasn't been doing well in our first day for South Luzon. But if there's one player that can make it work, definitely it could be Stronger.
Yeah, it definitely could be Stronger here, as we're going to be seeing the classic Arise on the Oriana. And I see a reaction ought to lose the Graves pick for Fate.
Okay, so they listen. They're not going to go all melee. How about we put a ranged champion on the jungle and pair it up with a Braum? That's a very strong jungle support synergy, right? That is basically a very good tip. They have a very good chemistry, not just because of the mustache and all, but they can have the Winter's Bite, also the concussive blows rocked out very easily. So this is a very good draft for Sunsparks. Very well thought.
Very well thought. A lot of damage on the board for Sunsparks. Basically everyone has a bunch of explosive damage to deal, as Omega Esports opting for something a little bit more opposite, as there's a lot of utility on the board. That's double shields, triple shields for Arise.
No
I
ADC.
suppose. Yes, no ADC. Double utility, mage bot lane. Ha, words.
Let's go crazy, my
Let's go
friends.
crazy.
Because Omega Esports is Yeah. All right. So Sunsparks did show their flexibility earlier, going for the no standard ADC composition. Omega, this is the first time we're going to see this, unless I'm wrong during the first series. I don't think so. I think they went for the standard, quirky plus something or Ziggs or something. But this is an Orianna on the Dragon Lane. We saw that work with Team Secret's Shui, and I can see it working as well for Timelapse because Timelapse is a very good Ziggs player and Ziggs is an AD champion. Correlate that to, Orianna, and I think we can have a good time.
Good time. Good
Definitely.
time for sure. I mean, I think this is the very first time we're seeing this version of the mage bot lane, because usually you put your focus on the mid lane for your damage scaling champion, like how Team Secret did it. They did a double mage duo, but they put the Yasuo in the mid lane. But this time, it's another utility in the form of the Galio. So I'm curious if, Omega is aiming for that early game snowball, as we see game number 2 now for Omega Esports. And the lead in this series, Sunsparks hoping to get that game number 1 as well for them. 1 point rather to take it to game number 3. We'll see how this goes.
Oh my god, and again, that's going to be a punish on that Fiora. On Devil J. So Devil J is not really going to have a good time against two ranged champions. Two ranged champions that can deal magic damage. We all know that magic damage is very heavily favored during the early parts in the game. But look at this. Devil J has to respect that and has to leave the lane very early. JLC did get chunked out, by the way.
Yeah, very early into the game, hoping that he can make some moves elsewhere. But good thing JLC is on a Garen, a little bit tanky, does have that sustain. But so far, yeah, Devil J forced out of the lane.
Alright, and now a rotation is coming. Orianna is going to probably support this Garen because they know that there is a dive that is brewing. You see the grips, you see the minions piling up, and I think there's going to be a dive in the bot lane.
Yeah, there's a dive in the bot lane, but good thing Stronger is there for that extra safety. And a Tornado's there. There's the knockup. But again, it's a Garen Janna duo here. And nothing will happen too much. But Omega Esports saw this coming and they're rewarded for it. Devil J, though, with the 1v1 towards Timelapse. No shield. There's a shield for Timelapse. A flash used. There's another flash as a reply. And looks like Impressive wanted to kill as well. But looks like its flash is burned as an exchange instead.
Mm-hmm. Right, so on point decision making coming from Omega Esports very early. You would see Stronger just rotating on the bot side because they saw that coming. They know that a dive is going to happen, and that's where the experience comes into play. Now, a flashless Devil J is on the top side, and I see Lee Sin there.
Oh, yeah, there is a dive. Remember, Devil J doesn't have any flash anymore. There's the riposte. Doesn't matter as Dissonance coming from Timelapse. We'll finish off the kill in the mid lane, though, for 5722. He is very low. Actually, very patient on his summoner spell. So, nothing burned there for the mid laners.
Oh, yeah. Quite surprising that there was that explosive of a fight on the mid lane that no summoner spells did get burned. But really, Omega Esports, again, has found a way to control the early game. JLC is being dope here, but I don't think he will die. Yeah, he's too tanky.
Yeah,
Still Legion Garen, my friends. Get those wild cores. Get them skin, because skin wins games.
Oh, definitely, as Stronger here was able to at least scout a little bit on that enemy jungler. Now though, Timelapse does have that vital point. Impressive is going to take another visit. There is the ult coming from Devil J. And he sees the danger. That's a 4-man dive possibly coming from Omega at the top side. But Sunsparks actually does respond here and scares Omega away.
Alright, so this is the Janna effect, right? When we talk about Janna, we often, talk about the shields, the monsoon, the tornadoes, the holy gales, everything about Janna except her passive. Her passive allows her to, just move from one part of the map to another. As I did say in one of my previous previous cast, from the top, make it drop. Look at that. So from the top, she went to the bot lane in a snap in 10 seconds or 15 seconds. So that's just how fast Janna moves, and that's where she excels. So if a Janna is stuck on a lane, she's not really fully utilizing her kit. But this time around, Omega Esports is maximizing the Janna effect.
That's true. Stronger doing a bunch of roaming things is impressive is actually in big trouble here. Looks like the Diana, or rather Arise, 5722 rather, will not push through with a dive as it may be too risky.
Oh, this is an Infernal. This is a yummy dragon. This is the best dragon out there. And I think Sunsparks has the possession, but Galio and Gary is in the vicinity.
Yeah, they are in the vicinity. There's JLC leading the charge. Spooky Ghost activated Monsoon actually to divide the fight into two. Wait, that is not a steal as Sunsparks is able to secure that first dragon for themselves. Infernal Drake, just as you mentioned, very, very yummy, as Omega decided not to contest that too much and invest too much resources into that.
Yeah, well, there was no one to steal because Impressive was very far back. And I think that was an indecision, and Galio is looking down.
Oh, what the kicks! That is a three-man kick as Impressive arrives in the scene. That's a double kill. Moonfall activated. They're getting reeled in. There's the Guardian's Angel getting procced as Impressive will rise from the dead.
Ooh.
And that is a nicely done by 5722. But that one auto attack as Sets will finish the kill. What an amazing, 2v2 was it? As Impressive arrives from the scene and was just explosive from there.
Right, it's a crazy outplays after outplays. That Lee Sin kick coming from Impressive. Definitely a highlight of the day candidate because that was clean. That was a bowling pin. The kick that gets knocked up onto your opponent's face. That's one highlight after another because just as I thought that I think it was Arise that was about to survive there. 5722 was there to deal the final blow on that Crescent Strike. Yeah, what do we know? These are players are very highly gifted when it comes to mechanics, but the next 10 seconds will be about positioning on that Rift Herald. The Impressive's Guardian Angel is already burned, so no more second life for this Lee Sin.
Yeah, very important, just as you mentioned, for this next fight, as Spooky Ghost activated will actually try to spot out Fate, who's just trying to push the wave. Rift Herald already started though, as Omega just trying to reel it in towards the upper portion of the river. Now, Sunsparks, very prepared. They're focusing their efforts towards JLC. There's the kick. There is the Fiora at the backside of the map. But now, Omega just wanting to run away as JLC is again the first target. And the next one falls as that is Sets' killer instinct, focusing on that Impressive here on the Lee Sin is able to assassinate one at least, buying a bunch of time. And here comes Time Lapse with this additional support of the shields. And 5722 in the wrong portion of the map, but he's able to chunk so much. It's stronger. Might be the next one to fall. There's a bunch of shields here and there, and another revenge kill safeguard, but the shield will not be enough for Impressive, and he falls once more. That is a prolonged fight because JLC rises from the dead, and he's able to execute another member away from Omega Esports, and now he's on the chase. He just wants Fate's head at this point. There's practically one auto attack left. There's the movement speed, there's the silence, and it's not going to be enough. What an extended chase coming from JLC. There is no plant there, and he actually gets away with that. He actually gets away.
And I love how the observers did the shaky thing, when something crazy is happening, because that was a very extended fight, very messy fight. I was actually paying close attention to 5722. She was not able to pull off a very impactful Moonfall play, but that was JLC just doing different things. The zoning capability of this champion, allowing Impressive to be able to secure that Rift Herald. Overall, kills were traded, but that is a Rift Herald that is going to go on the side of Omega Esports.
Yeah, it was such a prolonged fight to the point that after that fight, the next dragon is actually spawning now after 30 seconds. And for Omega, you're right, they're happy about that outcome. They did manage to secure the Rift Herald, and now they're in prime position with, getting the vision down for the next dragon to spawn.
And this is a very underrated dragon, right? When we talk about, the Mountain Drake, it's the shields whenever you don't get damage, right? That's an additional defense for your set. And I think it's very valuable, especially against assassins, especially against Diana that can really just one-shot you. So for me, when you have an Orianna that's very squishy, when you have a Janna that's very squishy, this is a very, very important dragon. And Omega Esports would love to have this dragon on their plate.
For sure, as again, it's already halfway down. A bunch of pokes coming from the side of Arise. Sunspark is coming from two different directions here. Will there be a steal? There is a steal! Oh dear me, as Fate is able to get that smite in! And that's the second second dragon for Sunsparks. There's a teleport coming from 5722, but Omega disperses instead, and they're like, okay, this is over. Let's just unleash this Rift Herald and see what we can get from this fight instead.
It's not yet over, I tell you, because this Rift Herald will just charge down the lane with JLC and Impressive is poised to possibly do another tower dive. Kiriko, Q connects.
It's possible. It's possible that they could have a tower dive. I mean, Impressive has his Guardian Angel back. There's a second charge in. There's a double man shockwave into the back line as the Solari is activated for that additional shielding. And so far, no follow-up. But Omega, very happy about chunking a huge amount on that second tier tower.
Two dragons in the favor of Sunsparks, but Mega Esports was able to even out tower counts 2-2. My friends, this cannot go as close as as expected. This is like 2K goal lead in 10 minutes, but it's almost like it's a dead even game. Everyone has has a punch for the opposing team, and the other side will always have a counter punch. And it is just a pleasure to watch this teams pull out another fight here.
Another fight, and that is Impressive getting proc on that Guardian Angel, and that's the Killer Instinct Moonstone activated by Stronger, but I don't think it's going to be enough. That's the last hit. As Impressive gets a Dragon's Rage kick for safety, he goes in with a Resonating Strike, tries to safeguard on towards the wall, but this means Sunspark gets that Baron with no contest over the jungler, and now we'll have to see if Omega wants to attempt the second time for that steal. I mean, we saw Fade managed to steal that earlier, but you're up against 4v2. That's a 4-man taunt. Look how low the members are coming from Sunsparks, and here comes JLC, the spinning man on this Garen, and now we can see Omega at least able to stall out this Baron, but it doesn't matter as Sunsparks is actually able to secure that Baron for themselves. JLC just trying to run for his life, delay a little bit, distract Sunsparks from using this Baron buff to its full potential, and now he's fallen as Sunsparks is definitely happy about that.
I still demand a replay of that fight. I don't know how it happened, but that shockwave, I think that was a ball river system. Just putting the ball on the Galio and having the Galio, oh my god, Sets is mispositioned here.
A little bit mispositioned, Spooky Ghost, but Sets is able to at least run away.
But yeah, in the end, that's a big win. That's a huge win for Sunsparks, because not only were they able to get the Baron, they have prolonged the game in their favor. Now we're going to see the queen of the late game, Kaisa, just pop off. And that was, when we look back as to how it all started, it was Impressive being caught out of possession. Then Stronger, just assassinated by Sets. Sets, the captain of Sunsparks, is very deadly on this, guys. And that's the reason why they're very confident in putting, Sets on this, guys. So because she can really just control the late game. And this is starting to become a Sunsparks win for me.
Yeah, it's slowly collapsing. We're at that 12-minute mark. Sunsparks is able to get a lot of their members online, just as you mentioned, towards Sets, and that is going to be the taunt towards 5722. A little bit of a tower dive here and there as time lapse. We'll back away from the tower. Again, Baron buff slowly whittling away. That's the shock wave, and now Spooky Ghost activated, but that will be Impressive under that. Whoa, 5722 was a little bit too aggressive there. Impressive was able to eliminate 5722. Now another fight ensues as actually JLC and Devil J will be fine actually in the top portion of the map.
Yeah, but this is already an outskilled Mega Esports, regardless of whoever they pick. Yes, they were able to pick off 5722, but that was a value in return. Fade is just going to assert her dominance.
Oh, Impressive with a beautiful kick safeguard out of there as the fight a little bit separated. JLC again getting the brunt of the hurt from Sunsparks. But he's fine. But at this moment, Sunsparks, though, is focusing that dragon once more. Again, Omega have 0 dragons at this point of the game. They are hungry for one. JLC leading the charge in the middle of 5 people. As we can see, Devil J actually joining the fight as well. There is the Galio. There's the double knockoff we were talking about. But where is your damage? We can see that time lapse is going to join the fight as well. But look at this fight. They're separated. Sets is on load. There's no healer. There's no healer for themselves as Monsoon activated. This is falling down like dominoes for Sunsparks, and now Omega Esports goes straight to the Baron.
And they are,
which is still not there.
Yeah, I saw the ping out there, but that's 30 seconds left before the Baron respawns. But with 3 man down, they're going to, pose a threat on the mid side. I don't don't think they can end this just as of yet. I think they will be content in just having a tower. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to see as Omega actually very hungry for this tower. And again, Guardian Angel dropped. A lot of the members from Omega Esports are low. Take note, they haven't reset it yet. They haven't gone back to base to recuperate. Buy some items, no red buff there to save you. Impressive as he safeguards away, but the collateral damage will finish him off. At the end of the day, Omega Esports loses one, and now Sunsparks, though, that means no jungler.
That's a jungler. That's 3 dragons, and this is the second Barons. All in all, and then the neutral objectives when it comes to the big monsters, it's really very heavily favoring Sunsparks at the moment. JLC is trying to impose his will on this, but this may be a collapse.
Yeah, it's a collapse there. JLC's just trying to survive. The Monzu will actually help him. The shields coming from time-lapse, and as well as the rest of the squad from Omega. We'll have to see if there's going to be a punish. Because again, they lack damage in these 5v5 fights. There's the Moonfall activated. There's the dash from 5722. It's too easy for this Diana for 5722. And now they're rewarded with this Baron once more, but another assassination attempt onwards Impressive, just zoning him away, but he has teleport. We'll see if he can survive. That is a no.
That was, I don't know, that was 1,500 damage in 1 second. That's a very strong Diana if you actually utilize it. But let's look at the items. Let's see how it happened. And this is a tank Diana with an abyssal mask and a force of nature. It's just unfair.
Wild. Just as you mentioned, yeah, tanky is the name of the game, and I think that's the reason why.
Damage? I don't know, man. It's crazy. But yeah, there's no magic resistance on the side of Ethan. He went all damage, and so I guess it really makes so much sense now. But this is a Diana that is being used very differently this time around by 5722. Since it's already almost 3 items here. Moonfall?
Yeah, Moonfall activated, but stronger actually burning down. JLC again leading the fight. He is going to be that catalyst for that Galio knockoff. He arrives into the fight, but the rest of Omega actually wants to back away already. Sunspark's very low. This is actually a very messy fight, but at the end of the day, Sunspark is very happy about the conclusion as they're diving already towards the Nexus. They're already in the fountain, and the Nexus falls. That is going to be a 1-1 score. Sunsparks wins game number 2.
Sunsparks show a different side on the Diana, right? So we won't ban the Diana pick. We're going to first pick it, and we're going to show you the tanky Diana, the bruiser Diana. Just as I mentioned earlier, Riku, that you can actually play Diana very differently, right? You can go assassin, you can go mage, you can go bruiser, tank. Well, you name it, Diana has all it, but in the end, yeah, it was Diana that was MVP, 7, 5, and 13, the 15k on the plate, influencing the game. I don't know. Crazy game.
Yeah, it was definitely crazy. I mean, it looked like Omega could run away with this composition, but at the end of the day, you mentioned how it would eventually catch up to you, like the scaling, the lack of AD carry. You mentioned how no matter how you pick someone else, the fact that you don't have someone that scales with you, a range carry perhaps, makes the game a little bit more difficult for Omega.
True. But yeah. Oh, crazy. It was a very good strategy being employed here by Sunsparks, Omega Esports. Well, they tried, right? They went for the Orianna pick. They went for the Janna plus Orianna combo on the Dragon lane. Well, actually, it was on the Baron lane. But when you go and use this composition, it's like a ticking time bomb, right? Once you hit the late game and you are against a double AD carry composition in the Graves, in the Kaisa, plus a split pushing Fiora, everything about scaling is on Sunspark's favor. So Mega, I think this time around, they will be the one adjusting, and I think we will see them on a more standard composition come game 3.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair prediction for Omega for sure. Because what a surprise, like the composition for Omega, they were probably hoping that they could snowball again like what they did in game number 1. But Sunsparks just lock the gates till they're odd towards that late game and they're able to scale and comfortably play to their strengths. And I really like that. Sunsparks just showed how patient they were and they're able to reset.
reset was what they needed, and reset was what they did, right? And it was at the backs of a very creative draft as well. Again, that's a Graves, and I don't think we have seen a Graves winning a game so far in the Icon Series summer season, but they made it work, and that I think is the solution to a Garrett, because a Garrett can really, from what I saw earlier during the first series, he was just running around and was just chasing Wukong, or was just chasing the junglers that are melee, and just making sure that they get zoned out when it comes to dragon fights. But looking at this game, 3 out of 3 dragons, 2 out of 2 barons, kudos to them because they were able to control impressive on that jungle.
Yeah, props to Fate. I mean, you are a Graves. You dash in and you smite. You're not like a Lee Sin that can sort of pass through terrain, or a Jarvan 4 that can just flag and drag and flash out. You are a Graves. You only have that that very short, teeny tiny dash, and Fate was able to, steal away that dragon away from impressive. So for sure, Sunsparks happy about their composition, and also happy about their execution with the objective fights as well, because they got all of the dragons in that game.
And I'm 1 win away from probably, getting inaccurate predictions. Those who predicted 2-0s are already out of the picture. As we look at the Open Arena 5 highlights of the game, this was the hyper-extended fight, if I believe correctly, and this was what we were talking about, the dash in, smite out combo coming from SS Fate. Look at that. Just a steal from the noses of Omega Esports, and Omega Esports had nothing to do with that. Okay, so this was the part wherein Sets and 5722 was caught out of position, but it was too little too late, I think. It was a ticking time bomb. Scaling was definitely in favor of Sunsparks, and regardless of what happened here, if Sunsparks just play it right, just play it safe, they will come out with a win. And this was the collapse, leading into a Baron, leading into a win. And yeah, Sunsparks better draft overall and better execution.
Yeah, I fully agree with you there. They were just playing to their strengths. They were patient. We got to see 5722 whip out the Diana too, just basically saying, I can play Diana as well, Arise. And yeah, this is the part you mentioned, the explosive damage. It was just so much, and the teleport was just not going to help you there. And at this point, it was just basically very patient plays coming from the side of Sunsparks. And hopefully they get to replicate that again. And even though the fights were a little bit messy, this was going to be definitely in Sunsparks' favor because they want to be together. And now, master of the match, we ain't surprised there, as it's 5722 on the Diana.
Damage per minute is 1,612. Decent, but that's huge considering his item build, right? His items was all about magic resistance, very defensive, not paying for the Rod of Ages. He doesn't need the Rod of Ages, he just needs the Nashor Smooth plus the Leandry Sorment to just dish out the damage. But that's still crazy to think about. How can this set of items do that much damage in a clash or in an assassination attempt is beyond me. Maybe Diana is a bit overpowered, just saying.
after getting buffed in 2.2a, 2.2b, nerfed. Hopefully not, because we truly enjoy all of these Diana plays in the competitive scene so far. It has been an exchange for both of these teams. You've got Arise playing a killer Diana, and then 5722 playing a more tankier but still very assassin heavy style for 5722. So maybe in the next draft we won't get to see the Diana again. I am not going to be surprised if Diana is going to get banned this time around.
Right, and I believe there's going to be another coin flip in where during game number 3 we won't know yet until our producers or production do tell us who's going where, right? So this is going to be all fair for everyone. So we'll see. We'll have to definitely check as to who's going to get the first 2 picks, because I think the first 2 picks and the first pick will dictate as to how the draft will go from here on moving forward, especially in the game 3, a very pivotal game 3. Remember, they're going against each other with their minds in set of that 50,000 pesos globe points, and that's no joke.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Omega, Liab already managing to get 50,000 Globe Cup points already. Sunspark, Execration have yet, but I mean, it's just day number 1. Things can change drastically, just how we can see the meta is changing drastically. Galio, still no wins in
Winless!
South Luzon.
Oh, no. My chunky boy Sentinel, Mika, is definitely in tears right now with what's happening with the Sentinel. The very first chunky boy that did get featured, right? Galio, in some of the articles, is now basically a 0% win rate champion in South Luzon. Maybe the teams really did get the code cracked already on how to play against the Galio. And yeah, Galio on the mid, not successful. Galio in the support, not successful. Maybe Galio on the jungle? I don't know.
Oh, Galio in the jungle. I mean, if maybe you play Galio in the jungle, maybe make that into... Who was that team that played Pantheon Jungle back in North
Galaxy
Luzon?
Racer? Galaxy Racer. It was
Galaxy
X-Spear with
Racer.
the spears. Right.
X-Spear with the spears. Right. And it was so amazingly well done. I want to see that pair again, the Galio and the Pantheon pick. I feel like that's just so... I wouldn't say it's overkill, but it's just so nice to see once it's executed well. But yeah, not looking good so far for the Galio pick. I guess the damage nerfs really did hit Galio to be a less snowbally chance now for that pick. So maybe we'll get to see more changes now. It's not going to be too prioritized anymore. It's just basically forgotten-ish now based on what we've seen in day number 1 so far.
I can still make it, or I can still see it work, right? If put in the hands of some team that will center around their strategy on a Galio, like Hextech Ultimatum with the hero's entrance, or a Cataclysm with the hero's entrance, it can still impact the map very, very strong, right? We're talking about large chunks of map being covered by area of effect, crowd control. So I think we're just we're seeing teams definitely knowing the boundaries of a Galio champion. When we talk about Galio, it has long cooldowns, right? So if you play around those cooldowns effectively, then you can really outplay the Galio. But it's not just the Galio pick himself. We have to talk about the composition as to how it's going, as to how he is being used in that game number 2. I don't think it really fits the composition in where you will not go for a standard composition with a traditional AD carry. Once you are on a Galio and that's on the mid lane, you're just saying that I'm going to surrender my late game because the damage on that Galio has been gutted.
That's true. They were Omega was definitely aiming for a snowbally performance. It's quite similar to what they did in game number 1, but that didn't happen as Sunsparks was able to hold the fort. Basically get 5722 in a state that they wanted him to be at on the Diana pick, and they were rewarded very well. But yeah, you mentioned Omega. If you're gonna make a dual mage bot lane, maybe where is the damage? That is something for sure that we'll get to see in the next draft.
The damage was definitely on the side of the Graves, though. I'm so happy that it was picked, because it was picked at the right conditions, right? Whenever I have pointed it out that it was basically their solution to the Garen being the nuisance, right? And they also needed another oomph on that damage because they were really planning on putting the Diana on the tank duty. So never mind on having a bursty Diana, just go all tanky and have the Kaisa and have the Graves and have the Fiora do the damage for you.
Yeah, it's actually super interesting. I love the approach. Usually when you're ahead, you want to build damage because you're ahead anyway. And usually you build tanky when you think you can't survive anymore. And I think that was what we saw in Omega's, I believe it was time-lapse on the Orianna. Eventually, time-lapse gave up on the damage department and just went defense for sure, because understandable, because Sunsparks was just building so they're scaling already, and they just wanted to survive basically as much as they could, because again, they had a sustain game-ish. They do have stronger on this Janna pick on that Monsoon and a ton of shields on their side, so they were hoping that they could outlast the battle.
Outlast the battle, that they did not do. They were very good in the very first part of the game, though. Remember, we highlighted the passive of Janna just doing the roams, right? She was very naughty and she was just playing around the map as if it was her own playground. Rotating from top to the mid to the bot. She was everywhere, right? And she was at the right place at the right time. Just so happened that there were a few clashes that they really did not go in the favor of Omega Esports. I think that this draft by Omega Esports is very greedy in a sense that it will really have to rely on the game being finished very early. I think they really have to have that insurance moving forward. But still, I can see Omega doing this draft all over again because I can see this working.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just as you mentioned, just finish the game early, hope to snowball, and we didn't get to see that, and we'll get to probably for this draft. Everybody guessed it right. Most likely it's going to be the traditional. We'll get to see time lapse on something else. Maybe back to the Kaisa, maybe back to Miss Fortune, which we didn't really get to see succeed in North Luzon, but he did play it a couple of times. And as well as the Graves AD carry, but we don't get to see that anymore for both North and South. So hopefully we get to see something interesting, maybe a Zaya time lapse perhaps. The usual classic Kaisa, Zaya combo or duo. But yeah, I guess
something interesting.
Yeah, maybe that enables the lane swap.
Yeah. Well, definitely. Well, Kaisa is a very heavily favored champion by Sets, the captain. Ever since, right? During the preseason, I've seen him play Kaisa on a different level. So I understand that if Kaisa is open, it's going to be prioritized. It's not going at the hands of time-lapse. Maybe, okay, hear me out on this. If they wanted to go fast, maybe could have gone for Ziggs instead of the Orianna, right? If you're all about pushing turrets, if you want to take down those turrets and have a pressure on the map, maybe it's not the Orianna that you would want to have. And Timelapse is a very good Ziggs player, so could be a different outcome altogether if it was a Ziggs instead of the Orianna. We'll never know, but yeah, just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I definitely love that idea for sure. You mentioned that normally you're a little bit worried when you're an AD range less composition. You're usually worried about sieging towers, but you're right, Ziggs definitely solves that issue. But at the end of the day, I guess they were hoping to get dives here and there. You know, the Galio Lee Sin combo, very, very strong. A bunch of shields as well to facilitate the process of having to dive and hopefully tank a bunch of tower hits. But we didn't really get to see that executed, so they didn't get to accelerate the game as they'd hoped for. So for Omega, yeah, you're right, Ziggs would have been lovely in this comp. For Sunsparks, this is just perfect. They're just playing standard League of Legends Wild Rift and just hoping to scale, even though they basically sort of lacked that sturdy tank, like secondary tank, because Braum can get squishy. But at the end of the day, it worked out.
I want to open a discussion actually. What is standard Wild Rift nowadays, right?
That's true.
Because we have seen strategies with no ADC, no problem working, right? And we have a shorter game in our midst. This is Wild Rift that we're talking about. It's not something that like through LoL PC they say will, it will go into 40 minutes or 30 minutes or something. So the word standard, yes, maybe it's probably I would say it's a classic way of defining how lanes are being rotated, but still is up for discussion. And right now, I will admit, Riku, that I'm still up for debate. What is really the real meta? Because every week we have a new strategy being employed by our team. And speaking of strategy, I think we're very close to the draft here, Riku.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, Omega esports fans, Sunspark fans are very excited for the conclusion of this game number 3. I mean, we were discussing this earlier, the rest of us, the talent crew, like every single day there's going to be a 2-1 for sure. Because again, this is South Luzon. This is the Shark Tank of the group of death, basically, of the region of the Philippines. So excited to see how this will conclude. Again, this is just turning into such a spicy match already, based on not only the draft, but also the conclusion of this 1-1 between these two teams. What again, we already basically discussed the potential draft, but you asked, what is standard League of Legends Wild Rift? I guess
Right.
we're all used to the usual, 4-1, one is split pushing, 4-man composition are just fighting each other, and then maybe 5v5 composition, which is maybe utility in the mid lane, and then they're just protecting the AD carry composition. So I know, you're right. It's just still evolving. I think that is the beautiful thing about the Icon series, basically. We're seeing the Philippines mold into their own meta, their own specialty, and not only just the Philippines in general. We're seeing different things. North Luzon had a different idea of their own meta. South Luzon is also just unfolding.
Right, and that mainly is the reason why I'm so excited to be part of this crew, witnessing changes after changes. And even the viewers, I know, they would say that, the standard is having an AD carry in the Dragon lane. But I think times have changed. Maybe this is a game that we can see different strategies being pulled off the hat in where you don't really have to rely on a late game insurance. But in game number 2, it was set still, proving that, hey, this is the better way to do that. League of Legends Wild Rift. But that really is what is, crazy about what's happening right now. If a composition gets picked, we can throw in our questions, but we cannot just say that it's not going to be very effective, because these are pro teams that we're talking about, and we're heading into the draft here, Riku.
Yeah, the draft is starting. The conclusion of the series awaits, as Sunsparks will be on the blue side and Omega Esports will be on red. Gragas being the first one getting banned, and usually we see the Olaf being banned on blue side, but this time it's banned on the red.
That's true. That's interesting. Wait, I think this is the same thing that happened during game number 2, right? Sunspikes was on blue. Correct me
That
if
is
I'm wrong.
correct.
Right.
That is correct.
Okay. So Gragas and Camille was their ban. Really, and that makes sense because that's a target on Arise and impressive. So Gragas and Camille out of the picture. That's going to be an Akali targeting Devil J and Olaf. So what is open? Diana. Is this going to be a back-to-back first pick priority on the Diana? We'll see. There you go.
It could be possible. You are right again. Sunsparks, you know what? Don't fix what is not broken, as 5722 is going to be back on the Diana. Now, Omega Esports, what is your call? Are you going for the same draft as earlier, or are you going standard, air quote standard?
That's banned.
That is actually true. We'll get back to you in a bit, as we'll confirm what is banned and what is picked here as, Camille. I guess we could look at Braum for the meantime, as that is picked on their end. I mean, it could be a Ziggs, maybe, or maybe I don't know. We'll get back to you guys out there. Looking forward to the conclusion of what is that exactly going on here. Is that a Camille ban, or is that a Camille pick? But the draft is continuing. But of course, we'll update you guys what is the actual picks there. It's a Kaisa ban.
It's a
There
Kaisa
you go.
ban.
There,
Okay,
come
so the
song.
Camille,
Okay, the floor is
Camille
yours.
was left open. Alright. So this is interesting because Kaisa was the champion that sets was defaulting back into, right? We have first sets on the Kaisa, so maybe they preempted sets. Sorry, it's time-lapse that's going for the Kaisa this time around. And their answer is to prioritize Camille that can go. We are talking about that's the Ziggs that can go onto the hands of time-lapse here.
Yeah, I'm happy to see the
is really just having a field day when it comes to lane swaps. Check that. Make it 4 out of 4 games. And they did the lane swap, putting their dragon laners in the Baron lane. Is that going to happen again? We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll have to find out soon because that is their formula. No matter what they pick, despite having a double mage, or rather a mage AD or carry, or rather duo, rather, for time lapse, they still made that lane swap just to try and bully out Devil J. And curious to see if they're gonna do it again. They want to avoid the Draven Lux matchup. What do you think?
Yeah, this is hard because when we talk about Draven and Lux, it can just bully out your opponent to a point that you can freeze the lane in your favor. Now, freezing in Wild Rift is not very heavily, done because you're actually losing on tempo, and with Wild Rift, it's a faster game overall, right? And yeah, it won't surprise me though if Ezreal and Braum gets hit in the Baron lane. And it's also a good punish on Devil J. It has shown his prowess on making things happen in a lot of picks. And this time around, it's on the Fiora, and you would want to bench that.
Yeah, it's on the Fiora. They wanted a better matchup. I think I see the reason why putting the Camille on towards the jungle portion of things. So very excited to see Devil J whip out this Fiora again, because remember, he's just so scary as this split pusher, this solo duelist laner here for Sunsparks. And I'm curious to see as well with this matchup, because we've seen the Ziggs and Diana matchup before. We've seen it swapped. It was a Rise on this Diana pick, and it didn't work out too well. So curious to see how do you think this matchup is going to end up in?
Okay, well, 100% sure that Arise will not do the same mistake that 5722 did, which was to really to play the lane very aggressive, because one gank can decide your fate in the mid lane. One summoner spell that has been burnt, right, was enough. Actually, that was two. That was the flash and the barrier that was burnt by Impressive, and that was enough for Arise to just deal the killing blow come level 5. So if Arise will play it out safely, and I think it will be okay. It will be standard, and I don't think. Wait, all right. So yeah, Arise and JLC. Wait.
It's JLC in the mid lane this time around. Game number 3, Omega Esports and Sunsparks. We'll find out the conclusion finally for our series, because it was so close, and I'm sure you guys are very excited to see how this will pan out. And yeah, what is happening here with the lane swap once more?
This is a crazy lane swap, and just as we were talking about, hold on.
Oh, that is a binding towards a Rise. Forced to use a flash, one auto attack away from his death. He will survive for now, but that means all summoners burned. It's looking like another Ziggs game.
Yeah, but this is crazy. Just as we're talking about how to really play standard League of Legends in Omega Esports is just, getting some plays from their playbook and making sure that they will confuse their opponents. Unfortunately, they did not respect the damage potential that a Lux and a Draven combination will provide. So Sets and Maze, they just punish out Arise. We talked about summoners being burnt, and summoners were burnt.
Yes, summoners were burned early in a different lane this time around with the same champion. The time lapse rather, is forced to use, actually not yet, his flash and as well as barrier still intact. It was stronger, was forced to use the heal. But, so far, Sunsparks doing this 1v2. Hold that thought. That's going to be a gank towards the top portion of the map. Fate Clone will eat the brunt of the tower hits, but it is now Summer Spells burnt with flashes just intact for the duo of Omega.
Sunsparks is dominating the early game. 2 Scuttle Crabs being on their favor. Multiple summoner spells being burnt on the side of Omega Esports. And this is a Draven that is slowly stacking up those adoration stats. The League of Draven, once he gets that kill, is going to accelerate his build path very quickly. So the question is, will that happen, or will a shutdown happen? Alright, so there's going to be a 3-man gang on the bot side.
Yeah, they have to be careful, just as you mentioned, because that is a Camille. Easily isolated target. There is the health shot, the sweep. But no follow-up coming from Omega, because They don't have that hold just yet, and Impressive actually held on to his ult.
So Impressive, respecting the idea that Fate could be there and Fate could punish in.
Fate could actually dive into the top portion of the map instead, and now Sunsparks gets first blood for themselves, eliminating time-lapse under his tower.
So Sunsparks is just playing this early game very beautifully. Fate just making sure to punish those, punish the champions that really did not have any summoner spells. And again, in competitive play, when we talk about this pro teams, this summoner spells are being timed. 100% sure that they will know when a flash or when a barrier will be up again, and once you give them an advantage of a flash that has been burned, they will really capitalize on it. And 20 seconds left before the Cloud Drake appears, resets will happen, and Draven is just very fat right now. We're going to see if he's going to stack it up, and we'll cash it out later in this dragon fight.
Yeah, we'll have to check that out soon. But just as you mentioned, everybody else will try to get that reset. So far,
Dragon has spawned.
lane-wise,
Blade of the Ruin King. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's a blade of that's a Blade of the Ruin King. Draven, that's a throwback. That was a standard build before, when the Blade of the Ruin King wasn't nerfed yet. So this is a very interesting. This is the first time that we've seen it in the Icon series, and they are probably just going to trade out this Cloud Drake.
yeah, I mean, their positioning, it looks like they want to let Omega start the dragon. There's the binding, there's the light, but there's another fight here in the mid lane. Moonfall activated combination to a flash, but a flash for a flash, Impressive, and as well as that stun coming from that Braum will eliminate 5722. Now it's a 4v5 situation, as Sunsparks, again, can, or will they, try to fight this? Because again, it's a 3v5, because Devil J, now that is going to be ult primed together, layered together. Cyclone Youth, but not sure if that's going to be enough. There is a bunch of bombs thrown from Arise, and looks like they will not get any more kills, but they do get the dragon.
Yeah, but I'm not sure what the thought process of Fate there was, right? Doesn't make sense. Yeah, he's not going to be able to steal that dragon anyway, because there is this block, there's this Camille that can really just lock you down out. And instead of him not, well, there were no summoners that were burned, right? Lucky for him, he was able to survive that clash or that engage, but it was still questionable in my part as to why it was there in the first place, because they have decided as a team that they will trade out the Cloud Drake for the first tower, and that they did. Devil J's now ahead to third.
Yeah, this is basically what Sunsparks wants. They want Devil J ahead. They want that split pushing monster to scale up and do your things, basically. Like what we've seen him on the Camille in game number 1 between the Yab, and now Rift Herald is spawned. We'll have to see if Omega Esports will get their prime position in.
Right, so
Dear me, that's a flash for a flash. JLC will meet Devil J as well there, and actually saves his life, but that means Omega Esports already first dibs on the pit here. On the Rift Herald, no steal will happen, but the Cyclone, there's no Cyclone, that's just the dash in, but that's a double binding, that's the final spark being kicked in as the disengage activates, but you can see 5722 in the back line, just hammering down here on the squishy targets of Omega. And here we get the cash, and just as you mentioned, that sets just free hitting, there's the bind, but JLC will try to escape, actually gets a revenge kill on Fate before he falls down, but that's a double kill still on towards Sets.
And this is a crazy game now for Sunsparks. It's hard to come back against a Draven that did just not a cash in. Also had a 2 kills for his for his happiness, right? But it was at the backs of 5722 again. 5722 making things happen. Diving in with Rod of Ages this time around and threatening to go on the Rabadon. He's very flexible on this Diana items. He's not going all tanky right now because his jungler is a Wukong. Just saying, right? But on point engages onto the backline of Omega Esports, opening up the fight. 4 sets to clean things up, and Devil J was not even needed for the fight.
Yeah, he was busy split pushing at the bottom portion of the map, and he was already happy burning a flash away from Arise, just removing that extra safety, only relying on that satchel for mobility. But now, Omega Esports, they'll be trying to sort of air quote pick up the pieces here as they're still waiting for a time lapse to come online here on this pick. We've still yet to see another completed item from Arise, so the bombs wouldn't do as much damage, but they have to really be careful of 5722's flanks.
Right, so 5722 has proven that it's pretty much the same as Yasuo, right? Yeah, when we talk about Yasuo has to find his openings, has to find those small chances to really just influence the game. And when you talk about Diana, it's almost the same thing. It's almost the same kit. So you can say that his skills on Yasuo can translate well onto this Diana. And 20 seconds left for this Mountain Drake. I think this time around, Sunsparks is not going to trade this one.
Yeah, Omega primed in position to try and remove a tower at least, but the rest of Sunspark is already there. And both of these teams do have time to rotate to the Dragon, but based on what we're seeing a reset from Arise actually. So will Omega give this away perhaps?
I don't think so. We'll see. But right now, it's very hard to clash against Sunsparks. Remember, this is Sets that was way ahead of his curve. Although his items is a bit interesting with the Blade of the Ruin King and a Mortal Reminder, that still is a very fed Draven that was left in the kitchen. But right now, there's going to be a full 5v4 because Fiora is splitting.
Yeah, this is, again, doing Devil J things, basically. They are very happy with just split pushing, avoiding a 5v4, and as well as giving away that dragon, basically.
So this is Sunspark saying that, you know what, we're going to play the Rift, right? You go for, we're not going to play for the champion kills. We're going to play the Rift, we're going to play the map. And right now, with another second tier tower being down by this Fiora, you can say that Garen stands no chance against this Grand Duelist, because if they go against each other, definitely it's going to favor Devil J.
For definitely Sunsparks, or rather Omega, will have to deal with that split push. And unfortunately, just as you mentioned, JLC will not be able to fight will not be able to fight Devil J here, as Devil J looking for a prime opportunity to see if JLC will push forward, but the answer is no.
Alright. And also looking at the items of Fiora or of Devil J, he really does not have any plans in joining his team, because he has a Blade of the Ruin King, he has a Trinity Force, so it's all about, putting out the damage. And if you go ahead and join a clash with with this set of items, I don't think he will survive that long. So yeah, that's staying true to their game plan. Just have Fiora split it out and have Sets, Maze, and 5722 do the clash things.
Yeah, aiming for that 4v4 or 5v4 perhaps, getting an early pickoff right off the bat before the fight starts. I think that's a pretty sweet plan. Now Sunsparks, oh no, a Stronger gonna get cut out. Slash being burned out, impressive. Spots out Fate in the middle of nowhere and actually tried to push forward. That's the bomb, trying to zone people away, but there is time lapse. Landing in the True Shot Barrage is not gonna be enough. That was too close for comfort.
It was definitely too close for comfort. That's when the tanky Wukong, items come into use, right? Come into effect, right? His items is not. He didn't actually elect for not to go for a Guardian Angel, and that's already a turret being down by the Ziggs. We all know the prowess of Ziggs in pushing down lanes, but remember, okay, when we look at the items of Fate once again, you will see what I'm talking about. It's not a Guardian Angel, it's a Sunfire Aegis, if I'm not mistaken, with a Black Cleaver. So all about HP, all about stacking those, defenses to survive any potential kill attempt coming from Omega Esports. Because once he goes down, it's going to be a lot harder for this team to survive any ensuing fights, because they don't really have a tank that can put up against a Rise in time lapse here.
I agree. They'll be very, very wary on how they can engage without Fate, but looks like they want to engage now. The triple man knock up with the cycle, with the binding. Look at all the layers of CC just going ham. But here comes Impressive as well. There's the bomb. Look at the damage coming from Arise. It's just too huge as they eliminate Fate. And at this point, look at that. 5722 just dives in, but the Zonias will help Arise survive a little bit more. Flash use, but he's gonna dive in. He's gonna chime in, but 5722 is a little bit low now, but actually survives that dive. Meanwhile, in the bottom side of the map, JLC gonna get dove upon. That's ult activating as JLC still surviving as Omega Esports push it through with this fight in the mid lane. And here, Impressive diving in. Just one more hit. He survives, but not unless 5722 kills him again. But time lapse finish off, wraps it up into a ball, and now Omega Esports very happy about that, and they're gonna get that reset.
Such an extended fight, and I think that really sums it up. Yeah, Rico, go ahead and take a breather. You deserve that one. That's a very good way of describing how so many things that did happen there. But it all started with the engage of the Wukong, but right, they did start the fight without one of their primary damage dealing 5722. It doesn't make sense. Yes, the Lux was there. The light binding was very on point. Sets was also there, but Sets wasn't really doing enough damage in that exchange. And I guess when we look back, I think Sunsparks is just heavily committed on the split push.
Committed on the split push. Is that a Baron bait? Perhaps there's the Mega Bomb again coming from the side of Arise, but here comes the clash again towards the river. Omega Esports very happy about the low health target coming from Sunspark. But everything just falling apart on the side of these teams as we can see Omega Esports just trying to run for it. At least 3 members are still alive, but Sunsparks, that's just 5722 off of the map.
Right, and the chunks are still alive, so this is still a good opportunity. That's the bait.
That is the bait indeed, as Omega Esports losing another man down, 3 men down again as Baron being started, being executed, half HP already as Devil J at this point just going towards 5 people, or 2 people rather. My eyes are blind, and that is a steal. That is a steal coming from Impressive. That is insane. This is not what Sunsparks wanted to happen as they're just cooking Sunsparks at this point with the Moonfall activated as well. But look at that, Omega Esports still healthy, and they wipe Sunsparks clean off of the map.
Omega Esports, impressive. Look at it, ladies and gentlemen, impressive. Just one you to give with that Baron steal, and it was very, very clean. I mean, I was holding my breath for a long time there. That was an over 5 teammates, by the way. So very, very good for the side of Omega Esports. That was the game clincher, and Omega Esports will come out on top 2-1 unless there's something happening.
I don't know, but they're focusing on the Nexus at the moment, and that is what you mentioned. They're able to take game number 3 for themselves. Omega Esports wins this series against Sunsparks.
Oh my god, impressive. Are you even human, my friend? Wow, that was a good, very clutch steal overall. I think Sunsparks, they really went for, I think they relied too much on 5722's ability to impact clashes. It's very evident, right? If 5722 is doing well on the clashes, then definitely Sunsparks will just roll on with the fight. And I think it showed. Sets wasn't really very comfortable on that Draven. If it was Kaisa or if it was a different marksman, maybe it could have been a very different game.
Yeah, it felt like it could have been a different story. And yeah, I mean, earlier in the early game, Sets was just having the time of his life, but we didn't get to see that transition. And Omega Esports for sure happy about that because they allowed, Arise was able to scale, picked up a bunch of items, make the bombs be more impactful, and as well as time-lapse able to, kick in some of the tier as well for himself. And Impressive, just doing impressive things basically on that steal. I mean, he is MVP, well deserved.
That's a game winner, right? Okay, to all basketball fans out there, right? Buzzer beater, 3-pointer, those things that we're talking about. You can easily relate this to that, right? That's a walk-off Baron steal, right? You walk off with a Baron and you walk off with a win. That's impressive, just winning the game. Overall, for Omega Esports, I did not expect that to happen, right? Because Sunsparks was starting to run away with things. Fiora was really a threat already. But 5722, he can only do so much.
I know. I mean, we looked at Diana plays, right? We looked at how the Moonfall can just be so impactful, especially when you manage to use it at the right time, like Baron Pits or Dragon Pits. But just as you mentioned, the damage was not enough for that 1v2 to happen. They got the Baron buff. They've impressive is definitely in the right HP bar to still survive a burst from 5722 and just retaliate after that. So such an impressive game. I think it's just so, heartbreaking for Sunsparks because this is the second game we've seen from them where the win just instantly taken away from them.
Yeah, but I know that Sunsparks will come, with a better preparation come next time, right? I don't think Sets was very comfortable on the Draven pick. Maybe he has to pick it up a couple of more times as we look at the Ocarina 5 highlights of the game. This was the early game. Oh no, this was already the mid game where 5722 was just going crazy. And it was Timelapse that was already online on that Ezreal. Look at the damage that is being dished out by this Ezreal. And look at the basket, right? That's 5722 just influencing the game as much as he can. Once he goes down, it looks like to me that Sunsparks doesn't really have any time anymore. They did try to deny Impressive's ability to steal this game off of them. They were not successful in doing so. This is what we're talking about. The game winner right here. Bam! Sweet.
That was just beautiful. Just as you mentioned, the game-winning play coming from the side of Impressive here on this Camille was just so patient. I mean, Devil J was prepared to try and zone two people, but Impressive was ready to try and kick in and steal that Baron. And of course, Omega, even though it looked pretty grim from start to the mid game, Omega was able to push through too late, get that Baron steal, survive, and basically win this series 2-1 in their favor. What a crazy finish. And of course, Master of the Match is Impressive on this Camille.
3 out of 4 games that he's now MVP for Mega Esports. This man gets paid, I think. This man will get paid very soon because he just carried that game. Not just about, the KDA damage. You can throw it away. Once you win a game off of a Baron seal, regardless of how you perform during the whole game, doesn't matter anymore. You will be awarded a Master of the Match and a very well-deserved Master of the Match for Impressive from Omega Esports.
Yeah, absolutely. Just as you mentioned, well-deserved Master of the Match. And that was such a game-winning play. They're able to, survive the early stages of the game, survive the reign of the Draven Lux combo by Sets and Maze in the bottom side of the map. They managed to survive all of that. And patience is a virtue, basically. What a crazy series we had tonight on our last night for today, basically.
Well, that actually explains, that will give us a clearer picture or a better picture as to how South Luzon can be mind-boggling, right? It's very hard to predict as to who's really going to win. Speaking of predictions, I did lose on the prediction side because it was a Mega Esports coming up on top, 2-1 here. Riku, how about you? Did you predict correctly on this one?
I did not predict correctly. I just predicted Omega to win 2-0. But unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for tonight. We've wrapped up basically all 3 series, but we haven't wrapped up just yet when it comes